Chapter 107. Walking to the ice fire Yang well. Yuhao could see snow, silkworms, cinnabar lotuses, thousand-year blood mushrooms. All sorts of rare grade 7 heaven-ranked herbs grew around the ice fire Yang well, and there were countless varieties of them. Wang Kai would have been attracted to these heaven-ranked herbs if it was any other day. However, this was the ice fire Yang well. Even though these grade 7 heaven-ranked herbs were extremely valuable, they were still lacking compared to the immortal tier herbs that grew here. If it was the classification in the true alchemy explanation, the immortal grade spirit herbs that Tang San spoke of would at least be heaven-ranked 9th grade heavenly treasures. These immortal tier herbs were Wang Kai's main goal in the ice fire Yang well. Taking a deep breath, Wang Kai quickly circled around the ice fire Yang well and observed all the natural treasures in the vicinity of the ice fire Yang well. With just a cursory glance, Wang Kai saw countless precious heavenly materials and earthly treasures. More than 10 types of heavenly materials and earthly treasures 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 of heavenly materials. And it was a good thing that they were in the vicinity of the ice fire Yang well. Otherwise, even the most ordinary 7th grade heaven grade natural treasures would be guarded by extremely poisonous creatures or terrifying ferocious beasts, let alone these 9th grade heaven grade immortal grade medicinal herbs. Not all of these spirit plants were beneficial to soul cultivators. On the contrary, at least half of them were poisonous. Of course, although there was no lack of poisonous spiritual herbs, there were also many beneficial spiritual herbs among these heavenly treasures. Just like the 2 pools of spring water in the ice and fire Yang well, these 2 types of spiritual herbs were equally matched here. Wang Kai stopped in front of a large flower that grew on the bank where the red and white spring water intersected. The flower swayed gently along with the water mist. This was a large, pale pink flower. It didn't have any leaves, and its stem was around 80 to 90 centimeters long. The flower was extremely large, and its diameter was dozens of centimeters. There was also a pale red light barrier that was around 5 meters in radius around this flower. Upon closer inspection, the flower could be said to be extremely beautiful. Every petal looked as sparkling and translucent as a crystal. Apart from that, it had a diamond-like, pale purple stamen that gave off a refreshing fragrance. It was the bane of all poisons, the delicate fragrance and beauty. Even though it couldn't cure any poison, it could counter all poisons. It was the best antidote to poison. The fragrance and pollen of the delicate fragrance and beauty had the ability to neutralize all poisons. Within its range, no poison would be able to do anything, and its poison-suppressing area was the purple light barrier that Wang Kai saw. What a treasure! Wang Kai smiled as he walked in front of the delicate fragrance and beauty. The Tang sect was famous for their hidden weapons, and Tang San from the Tang sect had brought these extremely insidious hidden weapons to the Dolawa continent. Even though Wang Kai himself had a body that was immune to all poisons and wasn't afraid of Tang San, but for someone like Tang San, who was a transmigrator who had lived 2 lives, his methods were experienced and ruthless. If he went crazy and made a move on the people around him, this immortal herb would be the best protection for them. Taking out a jade shovel made of the highest quality white jade from the small plane, Wang Kai carefully scooped up the soil from the delicate fragrance and beauty's roots. Immediately after, Wang Kai hurriedly entered the small plane and transplanted the delicate fragrance and beauty next to the plane furnace. After thinking for a while, Wang Kai's heart stirred. His hands touched the plane furnace, and then he silently said, "Double the soul power concentration of the small plane." The basic soul power concentration of your small plane is 2, and the soul power concentration has been raised to 1. This time, 2 million points are required to raise the soul power concentration. Do you want to raise it? Following Wang Kai's thought, a prompt appeared in his sea of consciousness. Confirm. As soon as Wang Kai's voice fell, 2 million points were immediately deducted from his account. At the same time, the plane furnace in the small plane was also shining, and more complicated and mysterious runes appeared on the surface of the plane furnace. With the appearance of one rune after another, the 4 basic energies from the astral world poured into the plane furnace more and more, and the soul power concentration in the small plane also became higher and higher. After a few minutes, no more new runes appeared, and the plane furnace was finally upgraded successfully. At this time, the energy pouring into the plane furnace had basically stabilized, and the soul power concentration in the small plane also slowly stopped at 4 standard soul power concentration. For a celestial item like the delicate fragrance and beauty, if it was to maintain its activity and medicinal properties, it had to be placed in a treasure land with a higher soul power concentration. Obviously, even if the soul power concentration in the small plane reached 4 times the average standard of the Doloa continent, it was still not enough to maintain the activity of the delicate fragrance and beauty. However, increasing the soul power concentration was still beneficial to the preservation of these celestial items. With a thought, he left the small plane. Wang Kai took a step forward again and came to the side of an orchid with 8 petals. It was snow white and sparkling, exuding a delicate virgin fragrance, and had a sense of nobility. Celestial spiritual herb, the 8-petal immortal orchid. Among the many natural treasures in the ice-fire yin-yang well, the 8-petal immortal orchid wasn't the most precious, but its medicinal properties could be said to be the most gentle and mellow. Although it was a 9th grade heaven rank, which was also a celestial top-notch natural treasure, it was very easy to absorb the 8-petal immortal orchid. Even mortals who didn't cultivate could safely absorb it. Correspondingly, it would take a very long time for its medicinal properties to be completely absorbed by the consumer, and it could even last until a soul master cultivated to rank 60 or even 70. In addition to being easy to absorb, this 8-petal immortal orchid also had the functions of consolidating one's foundation and cultivating one's origin energy, expelling impurities from a soul master's body, and so on. It was an extremely precious celestial herb. Unlike other medicinal herbs, the 8-petal immortal orchid's collection and preservation was the simplest, gold and jade packaging. As long as it was collected with gold tools and placed in jade containers, it wouldn't wither for 1,000 years, wouldn't wither for 100 generations, and wouldn't lose its medicinal properties. Although he didn't carry any gold items with him, this wasn't a problem for Wang Kai, who had the mystical system store. After spending several hundred points to exchange for a pure gold spade and taking out a top-grade jade box from the small plane, Wang Kai focused all his attention on harvesting the 8-petal immortal orchid and then carefully stored it in the jade box. As he continued to walk along the edge of the ice-fire yin-yang well, Wang Kai stopped beside a huge spiritual plant that looked like a chrysanthemum. It looked no different from a chrysanthemum, but it was different from normal chrysanthemums. This spiritual plant wasn't yellow or orange in color, but a magnificent purple. Apart from that, every petal of this chrysanthemum was furry and very cute. The entire chrysanthemum was a single entity, and there wasn't any fragrance coming from it. In the center of this chrysanthemum, there were several stamens that were more than half a foot above the petals, and the tips of the stamens shone with a faint golden light. This was the celestial herb, the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum. Chapter 108. Similar to the 8-petal immortal orchid, the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum was also an immortal herb with neutral medicinal properties. Even though its medicinal properties were slightly stronger than the 8-petal immortal orchids, the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum was still an immortal herb that was easy to absorb. According to the true alchemy explanation, the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum could allow a soul master's blood essence to flow through their limbs and meridians, allowing them to cultivate an indestructible body. Evidently, the indestructible body here was a little exaggerated, but it was enough to show how powerful the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum was. The singular velvet sky chrysanthemum's medicinal properties were neutral and vast. It could help a soul master increase their blood essence, temper their body, and increase the strength of their limbs. At the same time, it could increase a soul master's soul power, break through bottlenecks, and cleanse their meridians. Of course, to Wang Kai, this stalk of immortal grass had an even more important use. In the Martial Soul Hall, there was a titled Delaw whose martial soul was also the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum Delawa Yuan. If Wang Kai could obtain this immortal herb, he would be able to recruit this titled Delaw under his wing. The chrysanthemum Dolaw was a rank 95 pinnacle Dolaw. Furthermore, if he could obtain and refine this immortal grade spirit herb that was connected to his martial soul, it was very likely that he would be able to break through his bottleneck and become a rank 96 or even 97 pinnacle Dolaw. Furthermore, Wang Kai knew that a soul master could only consume one immortal herb in their lifetime, unless it was refined into a pill. If one didn't pay attention and forcefully consumed more than one immortal herb, the energy between the immortal herbs could conflict with each other, turning the soul master's body into a battlefield. It would be extremely harmful to the soul master. Although the immortal grass was small, the energy contained within it was extremely boundless. If a soul cultivator were to be hit by the immortal grass, it would at best injure the soul cultivator and damage their future potential. If it was serious, the soul cultivator's soul force would drop, and they might even become immortal. If the soul cultivator was even more unlucky, they might even explode and die. If one wanted to refine a grade 9 heaven rank herb like this into a pill, one had to use a vast amount of precious supplementary ingredients. During the refinement process, one had to possess spiritual power that was comparable to a titled Doloaz, as well as extremely precise and proficient pill refinement techniques. Obviously, Wang Kai did not possess any of these three conditions at the moment. Although the latter two conditions wouldn't pose a problem for Wang Kai as time passed, it was undoubtedly more difficult than ascending to the heavens to gather a set of 9th grade heaven rank medicinal ingredients in the Dolawa continent, where the soul power density was extremely low and natural treasures were extremely scarce. Moreover, Wang Kai didn't have that much time to waste. It seemed like Wang Kai couldn't digest all the natural treasures on his own. Therefore, it was undoubtedly worth it to spend a stalk of immortal grass to rope in a peak Doloa. Furthermore, Wang Kai also knew that if he could rope in Chrysanthemum Doa, Gui Mei, who was sworn brothers with Chrysanthemum Doloa, would definitely join him. Although the two of them weren't considered the strongest among peak Doa, Chrysanthemum Doloa and Gaga were both titled Doloa, and they could unleash an extremely powerful martial soul fusion skill, the dual stasis domain. The dual stasis domain was a terrifying domain that involved the mysterious laws of time. Once it was unleashed, it could stop time for any enemy that was enveloped by this domain. Even an exceptional Doloa would find it extremely difficult to escape. Even if a stalk of 9th grade heaven rank immortal grass was refined into a pill and fully absorbed, it could at most increase the soul power of a titled Doloa by 1 rank. If it wasn't refined into a pill and consumed directly, it would be very difficult to fully absorb its medicinal effects, and the effects would be even worse. Evidently, even a fool wouldn't reject using a stalk of immortal grass in exchange for 2-peak Doloa's loyalty. As a neutral natural treasure, harvesting the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum was naturally a relatively safe thing to do. There wasn't any danger involved. Of course, even though there wasn't any danger, there was still a lot of attention to be paid to harvesting an immortal grass like this. If there was any mistake, the spiritual energy and soul power within the herb could leak out, and the precious medicinal effects would be lost. Therefore, this was a job that couldn't be done carelessly. Wang Kai took out a jade shovel and carefully raked the soil around the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum. He then gently scooped up the soil around the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum and planted it beside the small plains planer furnace. After harvesting the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum, Wang Kai continued to walk along the ice fire yin-yang well and arrived beside a white flower. This was a snow-white flower that was sparkling and translucent. Its surface was extremely clean, and it was as spotless as a green lotus. At the same time, it exuded an elegant and refreshing fragrance. This was an immortal grass, the Narcissus jadeskin. Similar to the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum, the Narcissus jadeskin had the ability to strengthen a soul cultivator's blood essence and temper their muscles and bones. At the same time, it could also significantly increase a soul master's soul power and make it easier for them to break through their bottlenecks in the future. However, compared to the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum, this Narcissus jadeskin was different in its own way. Even though they were both neutral herbs, the Narcissus jadeskin grew on the side of the ice fire yin-yang well's extreme chill yin spring. Its medicinal properties were more yin, and it was suitable for female soul masters to consume. In contrast, the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum grew on the side of the scorching sunspring in the ice fire yin-yang well, and its medicinal properties were more yang, so it was more suitable for male soul masters. After raking the soil around the Narcissus jadeskin, Wang Kai carefully dug it up from the ground and planted it into the small plain. After harvesting these 4 herbs, Wang Kai continued to make his way down the ice fire yin-yang well, and he soon arrived in front of a rather strange-looking immortal grass. At the top of this immortal herb was a golden tulip. However, the roots and leaves below it were all made up of a dense and meticulous curtain of wisteria. As he approached it, an extremely rich fragrance wafted toward him, and it struck him with a sense of grandeur and splendor. This was none other than the immortal grass beautiful silk tulip that could absorb the essence of heaven and earth and the radiance of the sun and moon. Wang Kai carefully picked up his jade spade, and he was just about to stow this beautiful silk tulip into a small plain when a burst of enormous pressure suddenly crashed down toward him. The jade spade in his hand instantly exploded, and all of the muscles and bones in his body were compressed in a frenzy. Immediately thereafter, a loud roar of fury rang out beside his ears. "How dare you? Who are you? How dare you come to my place of seclusion and make such a fuss?" Chapter 109. What a powerful aura! Wang Kai tried his best to overcome the immense pressure that enveloped his body. He slowly lifted his head and looked in the direction of sound. In midair, a tall and slender elder who resembled a javelin was slowly floating down from the top of the valley. This old man was dressed in a simple gray robe. His unkempt hair was a strange dark green color, and his eyes were like emeralds that shone brightly. Squinting his eyes to take a closer look, this elder's figure gave off an illusory feeling. It was as if he was an illusion, leaving behind a faint green afterimage in the air. Just as Wang Kai lifted his head, this elder's body had already slowly landed on the ground. Although he had jumped from a height of over 100 meters, he landed without a sound. There was not even the slightest bit of sound. "Oh, you're not dead? To be able to withstand this old man's aura, your strength is not bad. It's a pity that you dare to enter this old man's cultivation ground and steal my medicine. Today, you're dead meat, under my hands. Even if the heavenly emperor comes, he won't be able to save you." Standing with his hands behind his back, the elder's dignified and angry voice reverberated throughout the valley. It was so loud that Wang Kai's eardrums trembled slightly. Immediately after, the elder's first soul ring flashed behind him. With a light wave of his right hand, a dark green venom that emitted a terrifying stench cut through the air and shot towards Wang Kai. Why did he come back at this time? This is too much of a coincidence. Looking at the green-haired elder's figure in the distance, Wang Kai's heart couldn't help but thump. Who else could this elder who had descended from the sky be other than the world-renowned poison Dugubo? Indeed, the worst-case scenario that Wang Kai had predicted had happened. At this moment, Wang Kai had a faint understanding in his heart. The beast tide from before might not have been a test by the world consciousness, or it might have wanted to rely on a few thousand or 10,000-year-soul beasts to harm him. On the contrary, the will of the realm had created this beast tide to stall for time so that it could await the arrival of the poison Dugubo. However, Wang Kai did not regret his decision to come to the ice fire Yin well. Since he had chosen the path of conqueror, he had to make good use of all the resources he could. A peerless treasure trove like the ice fire Yin well was a massive opportunity that he simply couldn't give up. If they didn't take the initiative to fight for it, this opportunity would fall into Tang San's hands, and it would be the foundation for Tang San and Shrek's 7 monsters to become gods. Furthermore, Tang San was the son of destiny who was doted on by the Dugubo continent, the son of destiny. On the contrary, he was the son of destiny who was the son of destiny. If he were to hand over such an opportunity to someone else, the gap between Wang Kai and Tang San would be greatly narrowed, even with the infinite martial spirit system. Shura's instant prison shadow stab. Wang Kai frantically circulated his soul power as he stared at the poison that was hurtling towards him. Immediately after, his 5th soul ring flashed. In the next instant, Wang Kai's figure suddenly disappeared from where he was and immediately reappeared 10 meters away. A futile struggle. A hint of disdain appeared in the corners of Dugubo's eyes when he saw Wang Kai's reaction speed. Among soul masters of the same rank, this intruder's reaction speed was very good, and his soul skills were also very precise. However, if he wanted to escape from the poison Dugubo's hands like this, then it would be far too easy. Dugubo flicked his finger gently, and a crisp sound rang out. Immediately, the poison in the air changed direction and shot towards Wang Kai's chest. At the same time, an extremely powerful wave of soul power spread out around Wang Kai, suppressing the space around him and preventing him from using any soul skills to escape. Emperor Shura, possess. Wang Kai revealed a bitter smile as he sensed the changes in space around him. The corners of his eyes narrowed as he frantically circulated all the soul power in his body. No matter what, he had to receive this attack. Only by doing so would he be able to continue fighting with Dugubo. In the next instant, streaks of mysterious Shura's power crazily surged around Wang Kai's body. Black scales with mysterious inscriptions started to grow crazily and covered Wang Kai's entire body. At the same time, black flames started to spread across Wang Kai's scales. It was extremely dazzling. Insignificant tricks. Dugubo's eyes were as calm as an ancient well as he watched Wang Kai's transformation. After that, he turned his head and looked at the medicinal herbs that he had planted in the ice fire Yin well. As a titled Dugubo, even though his first soul ring was only a 100-year one, he could poison a soul emperor to death in one hit. For what he could sense, Wang Kai was only a soul king. No matter how much he struggled, he wouldn't be able to survive his poison. The dark green poison instantly struck Wang Kai's chest and started to spread in all directions. Following a sizzling sound, the Shura scales on Wang Kai's body started to melt. Countless streaks of poison passed through the Shura scales and rushed into Wang Kai's body. Shit, I've overestimated myself. Wang Kai cursed in his heart as he sensed the poison entering his body. After all, Dugubo was a titled Dugubo. Even though Wang Kai was immune to poison, he was only a soul king. Even though there was only a numerical difference between a soul king and a titled Dugubo, there was an insurmountable gap between the two. With his immunity to poison, Wang Kai might be able to ignore the poison of a soul sage or even a soul Dugubo. However, against a titled Dugubo like Dugubo, he could only weaken Dugubo's poison. He couldn't be completely immune. At this moment, Wang Kai was a little regretful. Why didn't he bring the protective soul tool that Sendoryu had given him with him? However, thinking about it from another perspective, this protective soul tool probably wouldn't be able to block even a casual attack from a titled Doloa. Furthermore, it was very likely that Sendoryu would sense it if he triggered the protective soul tool. If that happened, his secret would be exposed. However, at the same time, Wang Kai was also secretly puzzled in his heart. For some reason, when Dugu Bo was facing Tang San, he had only taken him away, but when facing Wang Kai, he had directly killed him. Could this be the influence of the world's consciousness? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. However, things had already come to this point. The only thing Wang Kai could do was channel all his soul power to fight against Shura's murderous aura and fight to the death against the poison that had invaded his body. Streaks of Shura's murderous aura clashed against the jade phosphorus snake's poison that had invaded his body. The most intense battle in Wang Kai's body started. Chapter 110. In Wang Kai's tendons and meridians, Wang Kai drove Shura's murderous aura into the Shura's body. Several strands of Shura's murderous aura wrapped around the jade phosphorus snake emperor's poison and started to refine it. Under the suppression of the massive amount of Shura's murderous aura, the jade phosphorus snake emperor's poison was continuously broken down. Dugu Bo didn't pay much attention to his Soul King. As a result, Dugu Bo's attack didn't contain much jade phosphorus snake emperor's poison. Very quickly, the jade phosphorus snake emperor's poison was completely refined by Wang Kai. The color of his chest gradually turned from greenish-black to the color of flesh, and the corroded Shura's scales also quickly recovered. How is this possible? You're not dead? At this moment, Dugu Bo turned his head and looked at Wang Kai. He frowned slightly and exclaimed softly, "Kiki, you should be proud of yourself for being able to take a move from me, Dugu Bo, as a Soul King." There was a trace of surprise in his eyes as Dugu Bo continued, "Kid, it seems like you've studied poison quite a bit. It's a pity that you're only a Soul King. If you were a Soul Doluo, you could really play with me for a few moves." Taking advantage of the fact that Dugu Bo didn't continue to attack, Wang Kai hurriedly shouted, "Senior, please wait." Seeing that Wang Kai had spoken, Dugu Bo revealed a playful look in his eyes. After that, he laughed sinisterly and said, "Oh, kid, do you have something to say? How about this? Since we're in the same profession, if you have any last words, I'll let you finish them before you die. Senior, you and I have no enmity between us. I didn't know that this was your place of cultivation, and I didn't intend to sneak in. Since you said that we're in the same profession, you don't have to kill a junior like me, right?" Seeing that Dugu Bo had stopped, Wang Kai hurriedly said, "Oomph." Dugu Bo snorted coldly and said, "If you just want to say this, then you should just die. Do you think I'll let you leave alive after knowing where I'm cultivating?" After saying that, Dugu Bo was about to wave his right hand forward. "Senior, please wait." At this moment, Wang Kai hurriedly shouted again, "Oh, kid, do you have anything else to say? If you still want to beg for mercy, then there's no need to speak." Dugu Bo showed a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. He snapped his fingers lightly, and a wisp of green phosphorus snake emperor's venom that was several times stronger than before appeared directly between his fingers. "Senior, I can see that your body has been eroded by your own poison, and I have a way to help you detoxify it." Seeing that Dugu Bo's expression was a little impatient, Wang Kai quickly threw out his trump card. "Hee, what a joke. My poison will poison myself. I'm 78 years old this year. I've always been the one poisoning others, and no one has ever poisoned me." Dugu Bo still looked at Wang Kai coldly, but at this time, the green phosphorus snake emperor's venom condensed in his hand had quietly disappeared. From Senior's tone, "You don't seem to believe my words? In that case, let me say a few things that must have happened to you." Looking at the disappearance of the venom in Dugu Bo's hand, Wang Kai's heart was relieved. It seemed that half of the most dangerous level had passed. "Senior, every time it's cloudy and rainy, do you have a numb and itchy feeling on both of your ribs, and this feeling will gradually increase. In addition, does this symptom occur at about 11 o'clock in the morning and 11 o'clock in the evening every day, and each time it occurs, it will last for more than 2 hours? Hearing Wang Kai's words, a trace of surprise immediately appeared on Dugubo's face, which was as calm as an ancient well. However, he quickly hid it. At this time, Wang Kai also continued. In addition to the numb and itchy feeling just now, I think that every night at about 1 o'clock in the morning, Senior's head and soles will have a needle-like tingling pain, and at the same time, your whole body will be weak and even convulse for at least an hour. If you're not poisoned, how can you have such symptoms with Senior's peerless cultivation? In my opinion, Senior is not only poisoned, but this poison has penetrated deep into your bone marrow. In addition to these previous symptoms, I can also see that if you have descendants, the poison in your body will definitely be passed on to them. If there is no accident, Senior's children will probably have similar symptoms as Senior, and may even die early. How is it possible? How do you know my physical condition so well? As soon as Wang Kai finished speaking, Dugubo could no longer hold back the shock in his heart and asked subconsciously. Wang Kai's description before was as if he had seen it with his own eyes, and these could be said to be Dugubo's biggest secrets. Even his closest granddaughter, Duguyin, didn't know. At this time, these words came from the mouth of the young man in front of him who he had never met before. How could he not be surprised? While he was surprised, the killing intent in Dugubo's eyes also surged in an instant. A cold, killing intent seeped out of his body, as if it wanted to penetrate Wang Kai's entire body. As a powerful titled Doloa who had killed countless people, the killing intent from Dugubo's body was almost tangible. Waves of boundless killing intent crashed into Wang Kai's chest, causing his internal organs to tremble slightly, and there was a sweet taste in his throat. Speak. How did you know about my physical condition? Realizing that he had lost his composure, Dugubo quickly restrained his emotions, and the killing intent on his body quickly dissipated. In the next moment, Dugubo's arms stretched out, and it actually elongated instantly. He grabbed Wang Kai's neck and pulled him in front of him, and spoke in a roaring voice. Senior, the reason why I can deduce your symptoms is because I have a certain level of mastery of poison. With what I've learned, I can tell that you've been poisoned from your appearance. Although it was a little difficult to breathe, Wang Kai continued to speak word by word. I can also tell that although you've consumed some natural treasures to temporarily suppress the poison in your body and prevent it from acting up immediately, you have no idea how to completely remove the poison in your body. Sooner or later, you'll have to retract the poison. After pausing for a moment, Wang Kai looked into Dugubo's jade-green eyes and continued. Although you may not believe me, I have a way to remove the poison in your body. Chapter 111. Are you saying that you have the ability to neutralize the poison in my body? After hearing Wang Kai's words, Dugubo's eyes flashed with a faint look of anticipation, but it disappeared in an instant. Dugubo released his hands and gently placed Wang Kai back on the ground. He then opened his mouth and asked in a playful tone. Evidently, he didn't believe Wang Kai's words. Yes, Dugubo had been playing with poisons his entire life. His attainments in the art of poison had reached the pinnacle of perfection. At the same time, his cultivation had reached the level of a titled Doa, and he stood at the pinnacle of soul masters on the Dolo continent. However, even so, Dugubo couldn't do anything about the poison in his body. Dugubo had tried countless times, but these attempts all ended in failure. Furthermore, these attempts didn't improve his condition. On the contrary, they only brought him greater pain. Helpless, Dugubo could only rely on medicine concocted with a large amount of natural treasures to suppress the poison in his body. Otherwise, it would explode and prolong his life. Therefore, no matter what, he couldn't believe that this mysterious youth in front of him, who was only a soul king, had the ability to neutralize the poison in his body. After all, this youth in front of him looked like he was 17 or 18 years old at most. He wasn't even 20 years old. How could his attainments in the art of poison be comparable to his own, who had been immersed in the art of poison for decades? Perhaps These words were just an attempt by this young man to stall for time. However, after thinking about it carefully, Dugabo felt that Wang Kai wasn't spouting nonsense. After all, he described the symptoms in his body almost exactly. Perhaps this youth really had the confidence to neutralize the poison in his body. Faced with such an opportunity, Dugabo had no choice but to give it a try. After all, even if this youth in front of him was lying, it would only delay him for a few days. However, what if he was telling the truth? What if he could really help him? Dugabo was already 78 years old. In his life, his hands were stained with the blood of countless enemies. He was already indifferent to life and death. Even if he were to die from poison one day, he would not have too much regret. However, why would Dugabo give up the opportunity to live longer? What's more, Dugabo had always been worried about his granddaughter, Dugayin, who was only 20 years old. Dugabo couldn't be at ease even if he died, thinking that she would suffer terrible pain because of him in the future. If the young man in front of him could really cure the poison, especially the poison in his granddaughter's body, to Dugabo, it was undoubtedly 100 times more important than the secret of the secret cultivation ground. That's right. Wang Kai's feet landed on the ground. When he saw the look of anticipation in Dugabo's eyes, he knew that he was already halfway to success. Wang Kai nodded heavily and said confidently, "Although my abilities are world apart from seniors, I still have some mastery over my own poison skills. I don't dare to brag about other poisons, but I am confident that I can neutralize the poison in your body." All right. Dugabo nodded lightly when he heard Wang Kai's words. His tone was much calmer as he continued to ask, "Kid, what's your name?" "My name is Wang Feng." Wang Kai naturally wouldn't be so foolish as to reveal his real name to a titled Dua who was worshipped by the Heaven Do imperial family. Instead, he casually said a familiar name. "All right, Wang Feng. If you can really neutralize the poison in my body, I can guarantee that I won't kill you. Other than that, I also have a granddaughter who has the same symptoms as me. If you can neutralize the poison in her body, not only will I not kill you, but I can also promise to do 3 things for you. 3 things that don't cross my bottom line," Dugabo said plainly when he heard Wang Kai's words. "No problem. However, I have to ask seniors swear on his Tao heart that if I can neutralize the poison in your body, you have to promise to let me leave safely. Otherwise, your Tao heart will be shattered, and your cultivation will never improve." Wang Kai replied plainly when he heard Dugabo's words. Dugabo was stunned. He didn't expect this young man to be so difficult to deal with. As a titled Ba, Dugabo naturally knew that although the Tao heart was an illusory existence, it wasn't something that could be made up. It wasn't something that could be joked around with. Dugabo was a little angry. He couldn't help but say angrily, Kid, before you open your mouth, you didn't even ask about my reputation as Dugabo. Although I've never thought of myself as a good person, I've always kept my promises. No one has ever dared to look down on my integrity like this." Wang Kai closed his eyes when he heard Dugabo's words. He said plainly, "That's just empty words. Words aren't proof. You have to swear on your Tao heart. Otherwise, I won't believe you." "All right, as long as you can prove that you have the ability to neutralize my poison, I'll swear on it." Dugabo's eyes flashed with an ominous glint. He almost couldn't control himself. However, when he thought of his granddaughter, he forced himself to suppress his anger. Wang Kai secretly heaved a sigh of relief as he had passed the most dangerous stage. If Dugabo had used his full strength on him, he definitely wouldn't have been able to withstand it. However, if it was just passing his 3 tests, Wang Kai was very confident with Shura's physique and delicate fragrance and beauty. No problem. However, as for my ability to neutralize poison, how do you want me to prove it, senior? Wang Kai nodded and asked. That's simple. Prove that your ability to use poison is better than mine. Then I'll believe you. Dugabo retracted the ominous glint in his eyes and replied with a cold smile. Subconsciously, he still didn't have any trust in Wang Kai. After a pause, he continued, This is my alternative residence. All kinds of medicine are planted here. Whatever you want, you can find it yourself. I'll give you a day's time. Within a day, you have the confidence to concoct all kinds of antidotes. After a day, I'll use 3 types of poison on you. As long as you can use your own antidote to resist my poison, it will prove that you have the qualifications to neutralize my poison. Otherwise, you'll slowly die in endless pain. This is the price you have to pay for deceiving me. All right, Senior, no problem. However, please do not disturb me for a day. Dusting off the dust on his body, Wang Kai calmly agreed to Dugobo's request. Chapter 112. Of course, that's not a problem. I can give you a day to prepare alone. After hearing Wang Kai's request, Dugubo slowly nodded. However, I won't go far. I'll stay near this valley. Don't think about sneaking away. Brat, I remember the smell on your body. If I find out that you're trying to escape, I promise that I'll poison you with countless poisons. You'll be tortured for 81 days. You'll be better off dead as the price for lying to me. Dugubo revealed a cruel and terrifying smile as he spoke coldly to Wang Kai. After he finished speaking, Dugubo tapped his foot lightly against the ground, and his body instantly broke through the air. The tip of his foot tapped against the rock wall several times, and his body rose up into the air like a huge bird. Dugubo's figure had already disappeared into the white fog. At this moment, his voice could be heard clearly again. Kid, remember this. Don't touch those 2 hot springs. Even I can't withstand the heat and extreme cold there for too long. With your cultivation, you'll only die if you touch them. After watching Dugubo leave, Wang Kai revealed a mocking smile on his face. Without Dugubo's reminder, Wang Kai knew that the ice fire Inyang well was the coldest and hottest place in the world. With his current cultivation as a Soul King, he couldn't touch it, although the hot spring water in the ice fire Inyang well didn't seem to emit any heat. Wang Kai knew that there was an extremely terrifying heat and extreme cold hidden beneath the surface. For example, the red liquid in the ice fire Inyang well was definitely thousands or even tens of thousands of degrees Celsius. It was comparable to scorching lava and could burn everything. Unless it was a defense-type soul sage who had awakened his martial soul true body, or a titled doll like Dugubo, ordinary soul masters would immediately be burned to ashes if they touched the blazing sunspring. Even though Wang Kai's Emperor Shura martial soul was one of the best among God's martial souls, he was still only a soul king. Faced with the ice fire Inyang well, Wang Kai wasn't confident that he could resist the temperature of the blazing sunspring. As cautious as he was, he didn't dare try. As for the dark blue liquid on the other side of the ice fire Inyang well, it didn't seem any different from ordinary spring water. It was just a little darker. However, Wang Kai knew that the temperature of the blazing sunspring could reach negative hundreds of degrees Celsius. Under such low temperatures, ordinary soul masters would immediately die if they touched the blazing sunspring. Their entire body would be frozen into an ice sculpture, and they would instantly lose all signs of life. Even a god wouldn't be able to save them. If he wanted to enter the ice fire Inyang well, the only way that Wang Kai knew was to consume the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot that grew beside the ice fire Inyang well. However, Wang Kai naturally wouldn't consume them. This was because these 2 herbs were a gift that Wang Kai had prepared for Dugubo. Once both the star anise mysterious ice grass and the delicate flaming apricot flower were used at the same time, Dugubo would indeed be able to neutralize all the poison in his body. However, at the same time, his poison techniques and cultivation would also be neutralized at the same time, leaving him at Wang Kai's mercy. An ordinary titled Dao, without soul power, would at most be comparable to an ordinary soul sage who hadn't unleashed his martial soul true body. Furthermore, Dugubo wasn't a control-type soul master who specialized in physique. He was also 78 years old, and his body was constantly being corroded by poison. His blood was deteriorating. Compared to an ordinary titled Dao, his actual fighting strength would only be lower once he lost his soul power. At most, he would only be comparable to an ordinary soul emperor. On the other hand, Dugubo's situation was the exact opposite. Wang Kai's cultivation was only that of a soul king, but his fighting strength far exceeded that of a soul master of the same rank. Once his two martial souls were unleashed, Wang Kai's fighting strength would definitely be at the top of the Soul Emperor's. Furthermore, Dagubo's poison was countered by Wang Kai's physique. Once Dagubo lost his soul power, Wang Kai was very confident that he could kill him. However, Wang Kai was still a little wary of Dagubo. Wang Kai knew that Dagubo had a spatial-type soul tool on him, the Happy Treasures pouch. If he had stored some poison in his body, even if he had lost his soul force, Wang Kai would still have died once he released the poison at its peak. However, after careful analysis, Wang Kai still felt that Dagubo couldn't be allowed to live. Dagubo was arrogant, and he was deeply indebted to the Heaven Do royal family. No matter what, he couldn't submit to Huiyu Hao, the holy son of the martial soul hall. In addition, Dagubo's body and Tang San's body also had a certain karmic entanglement. Even if he really cured Dagubo, under the influence of the world's will, it was still very likely that he would seek refuge with Tang San. On the other hand, if he could kill a title de law, it would be a huge opportunity for Wang Kai. According to the system's judgment, a title de law's value was comparable to 100,000-year soul beast. Once he killed a title de law, although he couldn't provide Wang Kai with a 100,000-year soul ring, he could still provide Wang Kai with a huge amount of origin experience and origin points. Comparing the two, it was obvious that while killing Dagubo required a certain amount of risk, it was undoubtedly the most beneficial method for Wang Kai. Riches and honor were found in danger. Very quickly, Wang Kai made up his mind. Now, what Wang Kai had to do was to pass Dagubo's test and prepare to fight Dagubo. Evidently, Wang Kai's current physique wasn't enough to completely resist Dagubo's poison. While delicate fragrance and beauty could alleviate and suppress the poison, it couldn't completely suppress it. If he wanted to safely pass Dagubo's test, he had to use other methods. Yes, these are the ones. Wang Kai nodded as he retrieved the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum and a narcissus jade skin that he had just plucked from the small plain. Similar to the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot, the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum and the narcissus jade skin were neutral in nature, but they were also yin and yang. Compared to the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot, consuming the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum and the narcissus jade skin at the same time could form a yin-yang body that was similar to the body of ice and fire. Compared to the body of ice and fire, the yin-yang body wasn't as effective in suppressing poison. However, these two herbs were easier to absorb. Once consumed, they could quickly suppress the poison. With the yin-yang body and Emperor Shura's physique, Wang Kai was more than capable of passing Dagubo's test. The only thing that Wang Kai felt a little pity about was that his plan to recruit Chrysanthemum Delois had to be ruined because of this. Chapter 113. Other than helping Wang Kai resist the poison and increasing his chances of passing Dagubo's test, the yin-yang body had an even greater benefit. It greatly increased Wang Kai's recovery ability. Once he successfully formed the yin-yang body, Wang Kai's body would be able to achieve a state where yin and yang coexisted. From then on, regardless of whether it was his soul power, spiritual power, or blood energy, Wang Kai's recovery ability would be increased by several times. To Wang Kai, who had the ability to carry an unlimited number of martial souls, this was naturally a constitution that he could only wish for. If he wanted to unleash the true strength of his unlimited martial soul constitution, Wang Kai not only needed a huge amount of soul power, he also needed a strong recovery speed. Otherwise, even if Wang Kai had many strong martial souls and soul skills, he wouldn't have enough soul power to unleash them. Therefore, to be able to form the yin-yang body was naturally a good thing for Wang Kai. Although Wang Kai had already obtained the earth strength, which provided him with a very strong recovery ability, there were certain limitations to this soul skill. If the battlefield was in the ocean or the sky, where there was no earth strength, then this soul skill wouldn't be able to provide Wang Kai with an unlimited amount of recovery. Evidently, the the yin-yang body didn't have such a problem. Furthermore, even with the Earth's strength, to be able to obtain the yin-yang body was still a good thing for Wang Kai. After all, 1 plus 1 was greater than 2. He could increase his recovery ability even more. Why would Wang Kai reject such a good thing? Originally, Wang Kai didn't want to use these two herbs to form the yin-yang body. After all, there were many ways to form the yin-yang body. Compared to forming the yin-yang body earlier, it might be more beneficial for Wang Kai to rope in two-peak Doanao. However, Wang Kai had no other choice now. After taking out the singular velvet sky, reaching chrysanthemum, and the narcissus jadeskin bone, Wang Kai no longer hesitated. He plucked a petal of the singular velvet sky, reaching chrysanthemum, and a leaf of the narcissus jadeskin bone, and stuffed them into his mouth. Chewing lightly, a clear and sweet juice flowed down his throat, and a refreshing fragrance filled the air. A cool and warm energy intertwined and flowed into Wang Kai's meridians. Just like before, Wang Kai consumed all the petals and leaves. After that, Wang Kai removed the stamens of the singular velvet sky, reaching chrysanthemum and the narcissus muscle bone, and then he mixed them together and swallowed them. After that, Wang Kai returned the bald strange velvet chrysanthemum and the roots of narcissus jade back to the small realm. He sat down with his legs crossed, held his breath, and concentrated his mind, crazily refining the medicinal power of the two immortal herbs that kept surging into his meridians. The medicinal power of yin and yang intertwined in Wang Kai's meridians and slowly flowed forward. Although the medicinal power of the singular velvet sky, reaching chrysanthemum, and the narcissus jadeskin bone were enormous, they were unusually gentle. They didn't cause too much of an impact on Wang Kai's body and meridians. On the contrary, they were silently nourishing Wang Kai's main meridians and opening up many of the smaller side meridians in Wang Kai's body. At the same time, the soul force in Wang Kai's body was also wrapped up in balls of yin and yang medicinal power as he refined them. As the refinement progressed, the yin and yang medicinal power was continuously converted into new soul force and blood energy, causing the total volume and scale of the soul force in Wang Kai's body to increase at a speed visible to the naked eye. As the medicinal power was refined, the power of ice and fire in the environment slowly flowed into Wang Kai's body through his pores and was refined along with the medicinal power by Wang Kai. Every time the power of ice and fire entered his body, Wang Kai's body would flash with a layer of faint blue and red radiance. Balls of ice and fire power and yin and yang medicinal power were continuously refined, and Wang Kai's physique was also slowly transforming into a yin and yang body. Half a day later, ding! You have refined the Heaven Tier Level 9 medicinal herbs, singular velvet sky, reaching chrysanthemum and narcissus jadeskin bone. Obtained 75,000 experience. Ding! You have refined the power of ice and fire in the environment. Obtained 2,500 experience. Ding! You have refined the Heaven Tier Level 9 medicinal herbs, singular velvet sky, reaching chrysanthemum and narcissus jadeskin bone, forming a physique, yin and yang body. Ding! Remaining 83,500 experience points. Spent 50,000 experience points to reach level 56. Remaining 33,500 experience points. 4 system notifications sounded in his mind. Feeling the medicinal power in his body gradually dissipating and his soul force rising, Wang Kai slowly opened his eyes. Great, I did it! Excitedly nodding his head, Wang Kai also took the opportunity to sense the condition of his body. After successfully refining the singular velvet sky, reaching chrysanthemum and narcissus jadeskin bone, Wang Kai had finally succeeded in condensing his second special physique, yin and yang body. And after successfully refining the medicinal power in the medicinal herbs, a layer of black filth once again appeared on the surface of Wang Kai's body, emitting a dizzying stench. Slightly urging his soul force, Wang Kai shattered the filth on the surface of his body, revealing the white, jade-like skin that shone with a beautiful luster. Meridian cleansing. Using the opportunity of refining the immortal herbs, Wang Kai completed the deepest level of refinement of his body for the third time. Apart from that, after refining the two immortal herbs, Wang Kai's blood and qi power, as well as his body's constitution, had also been greatly improved. With every punch and kick, Wang Kai could feel his body brimming with power. Compared to before refining the immortal herbs, Wang Kai's strength had increased by about 50%, and his defense and agility had also increased significantly. Not only had his physique and soul force increased, Wang Kai's spiritual power had also increased by a large amount after consuming the immortal herbs. Although the two immortal herbs focused more on increasing a soul master's physical body, as Heaven Tier 9 herbs, they also had the supplementary effect of increasing a soul master's spiritual power. Following the increase in his spiritual power, Wang Kai's spiritual power realm also naturally broke through the 6 tasks at one time, breaking through 2 realms and directly reaching the 8 tasks at one time. The only thing that made Wang Kai a little regretful was that the source experience that refining the immortal herbs gave him this time was a little too little and only allowed him to rise by 1 level. However, thinking about it carefully, this was a very normal phenomenon. Firstly, in just half a day, the medicinal effects of the 2 immortal herbs hadn't been completely refined. At least 70 to 80% of the medicinal effects hadn't been refined and were hidden in Wang Kai's body. This couldn't be rushed. He could only slowly cultivate in the future to slowly refine the medicinal effects that had entered deep into his flesh and meridians and gradually convert them into source experience. Secondly, in the medicinal effects that Wang Kai had refined this time, a small part of them had been used to condense Wang Kai's yin-yang body and hadn't been completely converted into source experience. This was also why Wang Kai's soul force only rose by 1 level after consuming the 2 immortal herbs. After stretching his body and adapting to his new strength and soul power, Wang Kai came to the side of the ice fire, yin-yang well again. If he wanted to kill Dugabo in the future, there would definitely be a fierce battle. Since there was still time, he wanted to take the most valuable treasures in the ice fire, yin-yang well first. Chapter 114. Arriving in front of an inconspicuous short herb, Wang Kai once again stopped in his tracks. If one were to look at this herb from afar, it didn't look very different from an ordinary weed. It was green all over. However, if one were to look closer, they would discover that there were 3 small leaves that were as white as jade growing in the center of the short herb. There were several droplets of water in the center of the white leaves. They were sparkling and translucent, like morning dew. This was an immortal herb, the piercing autumn dew. Unlike most natural treasures, this piercing autumn dew couldn't increase a soul master's soul power or blood essence. On the contrary, it was an extremely rare immortal herb that could increase one's spiritual power. Once a soul master consumed and refined the piercing autumn dew, their spiritual power would increase rapidly. Whether it was their perception or observation skills, they would all be significantly enhanced. There was a saying that this piercing autumn dew could allow one to cultivate a pair of fiery eyes that could see through all kinds of strange objects. Although this saying was a little exaggerated, this was how this herb got its name. After consuming the singular velvet sky, chrysanthemum, and narcissus jade skin, Wang Kai's tendons and flesh were filled with their residual medicinal power. If he were to be greedy and rashly consume other herbs that could increase soul power, even if it was the most gentle 8-petal immortal orchid, it would cause the medicinal power to conflict in his tendons and vessels. Not only would he lose the medicinal power that had already entered his body, it would also harm his potential for advancement. Unlike the other immortal herbs, the piercing autumn dew wouldn't increase Wang Kai's soul power. Thus, it wouldn't clash with the other immortal herbs that Wang Kai was consuming. This was the 3rd immortal herb that Wang Kai was preparing to consume. Spiritual power was an extremely important attribute for Wang Kai. If he wanted to truly unleash the power of his limitless martial soul physique, multitasking was an ability that Wang Kai had to master. The prerequisite for multitasking was that one's spiritual power was strong enough. Therefore, although this piercing autumn dew wasn't very useful to other soul masters, it would definitely have a miraculous effect on Wang Kai. After plucking the piercing autumn dew, Wang Kai continued to walk towards the next herb that he fancied. It was an ordinary-looking white flower about the size of a palm. The shape of the flower was similar to a peony without any leaves. Unlike other natural treasures, its roots did not sink into the soil. On the contrary, it was tightly connected to a large black rock. This was the yearning heartbroken red that was closest to the divine grade among the immortal great herbs. The yearning heartbroken red was undoubtedly the best out of all the heavenly resources within the ice fire yin-yang well. It was only a step away from the legendary god tier 10th grade. Of course, the yearning heartbroken red was the most potent, the most comprehensive, and the easiest to absorb. Even Wang Kai would be able to break through to the Soul Emperor realm if he used it. But it was a pity that the yearning heartbroken red was different from other immortal herbs. It couldn't be directly plucked and consumed. Instead, it had a magical process of choosing its owner. When plucking this yearning heartbroken red, the plucker had to think of his beloved in his heart and spit out a mouthful of blood on the petals. Only if the plucker had sincere feelings could he pluck the yearning heartbroken red from the raven stone onto the flower. Even if he was half-hearted, even if he spat out blood and died, he wouldn't be able to obtain the approval of the yearning heartbroken red. And if the plucker had evil thoughts and wanted to forcefully destroy the raven stone onto the flower, the yearning heartbroken red would also lose all its medicinal strength. Wang Kai knew that he was a very philanthropic person. He definitely wasn't fated with this yearning heartbroken red. Therefore, he plucked and consumed it for Chihiro Snow, who only had him in her heart. Perhaps that was the correct way to obtain this yearning heartbroken red. Yearning heartbroken red, coxcomb phoenix, sunflower, thousand-year blood, Ganoderma. Stocks of Heaven Rank Level 9 and Heaven Rank Level 8 heavenly treasures were collected by Wang Kai into the small plain. More than an hour later, all the heavenly treasures of Heaven Rank Level 8 and above near the ice fire yin-yang well had been completely collected by Wang Kai into the small plain. If it wasn't for the lack of time and the fear of being discovered by Dugabo, if he plucked too many herbs, Wang Kai would definitely choose to take away all the heavenly treasures of Heaven Rank Level 7 and above. After all, a heavenly treasure of Heaven Rank Level 7, even if it was directly consumed, could bring Wang Kai tens of thousands of source experience. Although Wang Kai's meridians were already filled with a huge amount of immortal herbs' medicinal strength, and even if he refined these heavenly treasures of Heaven Rank, he wouldn't be able to digest them. However, sooner or later, the medicinal strength in his meridians would be completely refined. At that time, these heavenly treasures of Heaven Rank would come in handy. After putting the jade spade back into the small plane, Wang Kai immediately took out a small jade disc. After placing the jade disc on the ground, Wang Kai took out a heavenly treasure of Heaven Rank Level 8 and Level 9 Dragon Ganoderma, an appropriate amount of delicate fragrance and beauty pollen, and a singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum's roots, placing them all on the jade disc. Taking out a small jade pestle, Wang Kai gently crushed the Level 9 Dragon Ganoderma before mixing it with the delicate fragrance and beauty pollen. He pinched the singular velvet sky, connecting chrysanthemum's roots with both hands and crushed them. A light yellow-green liquid flowed out, mixing the delicate fragrance and beauty pollen and the Level 9 Dragon Ganoderma powder together to form a thick yellow-green liquid that emitted a light and elegant fragrance. Wang Kai wrapped his spiritual power around the liquid in the jade disc and let it float in the air. He condensed his soul power slightly, and a wisp of 3,000 heaven-burning flames appeared between his fingers. After that, Wang Kai gently flicked his right hand, and the 3,000 heaven-burning flames disappeared into the liquid in the air. Following the addition of the 3,000 heaven-burning flames, the viscous liquid in the air slowly began to bubble and condense. In the end, it formed a yellow-green pill that was the size of a marble with a slightly bumpy surface. Without going through the 5 steps of tempering and fusing, this pill wasn't even a level 1 pill. However, considering the precious heavenly treasures used to refine it, the actual effect of this pill was definitely comparable to a heavenly rank pill. This was a method recorded in the True Alchemy Solution. Although the effect of the pills refined by this method would certainly be much worse than those refined by using the same materials, and it would also be unable to fully utilize the medicinal efficacies of the heavenly treasures. However, this crude pill could still integrate a part of the medicinal efficacies of the heavenly treasures, and its effect would still be much better than taking the heavenly treasures alone. The level 9 Dragon Ganoderma, delicate fragrance and beauty pollen, and singular velvet sky connecting chrysanthemum were all very resistant to the Dugu Bow's snake venom. The antidote formed by the 3 of them was even more miraculous. This was also Wang Kai's last line of defense against the Dugu Bow. After storing the antidote into the jade bottle, Wang Kai closed his eyes and meditated as he waited for the Dugu Bow's arrival. Chapter 115. The next morning, Dugu Bow's voice drifted from the top of the valley, just as the first ray of sunlight shone down from the top of the valley. "Kid, are you ready to accept my test?" Dugu Bow gently landed at the bottom of the valley and strode over to Wang Kai's side as he questioned him coldly. "Senior, please wait for a moment." Wang Kai stood up from the ground and replied as he took out a jade bottle. He unscrewed the jade stopper and took out the antidote pill that he had prepared beforehand and swallowed it. Immediately, an extremely refreshing medicinal power rose from Wang Kai's mouth and flowed into Wang Kai's blood. Seeing Wang Kai's smooth movements, Dugu Bow's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He opened his mouth and asked indifferently, "Medicinal pill? Senior, this isn't a pill." Wang Kai shook his head and explained, "I only plucked a few stalks of spiritual herbs that have antidote effect from the side of the pool and concocted an antidote pill. It's still far from being a real pill." "Herbs from the side of the pool?" Dugu Bow frowned and asked in disbelief. "Kid, are you able to identify the medicinal properties of these strange herbs by the side of the pool?" Ever since Dugu Bow had found the ice fire Yin Yang well, he had discovered that there were many herbs here that he did not recognize. He had tried to test the medicinal properties of these herbs, but those attempts had caused him unforgettable pain. Furthermore, he would have been poisoned to death several times over if it weren't for his powerful abilities and his martial soul's terrifying poison resistance. Therefore, Dugu Bow didn't dare to believe that Wang Kai had the ability to identify the medicinal properties of these herbs. "I've only seen descriptions of some spiritual herbs in the ancient books of my clan. I didn't expect that I would be lucky enough to encounter them during this training trip. There are herbs that can remove the poison in your body among the herbs around the pool. That's why I said that I'm confident that I can cure your poison." Wang Kai answered Dugu Bow's question with a half-truth. "Is that so?" "I see." Dugu Bow nodded. His expression was still as calm as ever, but countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Pill refinement, ancient books of his clan, and training outside. Could it be that this youth in front of him is a junior from one of the hidden ancient clans on the Doloa continent? As a titled Doloa and a consecrator of the Heaven Do Empire's imperial family, Dugu Bow naturally knew many secrets of the Doloa continent. For example, he had learned from the Heaven Do Empire's secret database that there were many hidden ancient clans on the Doloa continent. Most of these ancient clans were the descendants of the legendary gods. They usually lived in the secret realms created by the gods with great magic power and never participated in the disputes of the continent. Only every few decades, or even hundreds of years, would they send some outstanding disciples out to gain experience. When he thought about this youth's cultivation and fighting experience that far surpassed his peers, Dugu Bow was even more certain of his guess. Looking at this youth's calm and confident appearance, if he's from one of those hidden ancient clans, perhaps he really has the means to cure me and my granddaughter? When he thought of this, a glimmer of hope ignited in Dugu Bow's heart. His originally tense expression and cold tone couldn't help but become gentler. "Wang Feng, can we begin?" As he spoke, Dugu Bow also secretly made a decision. The test that he gave Wang Kai couldn't be too harsh. Firstly, Dugubo still hoped that Wang Kai could cure him and his granddaughter. If he wasn't careful and used too much poison and poisoned Wang Kai to death, his rare chance of recovery would disappear. Furthermore, this youth came from a hidden ancient clan and was most likely one of the top geniuses in that clan. If he killed him, it might attract the old monsters from those ancient clans to descend into the world and cause endless trouble in the future. Seeing the slight change in Dugubo's expression, Wang Kai was secretly delighted. It's done. What he said before was to create the appearance that he had power and inheritance. This would make Dugubo believe that he had the ability to cure him, and also create a kind of deterrence so that he wouldn't go all out against him. Now, it seemed like his plan was already more than half successful. Nodding slightly, Wang Kai said seriously, "Elder, I'm already prepared. Please begin your test." "Are you really prepared?" Dugubo condensed all the poison in his body as he asked again. "Yes, Elder, please." Wang Kai nodded again and gestured for him to begin. "All right." Dugubo nodded and didn't say anything else. After this, he flicked the middle finger of his right hand towards Wang Kai. Suddenly, a faint green fog silently appeared and completely dispersed in an instant. It enveloped Wang Kai's body. Dugubo lived up to his name as the Grand Master of Soul Poisoners and a super powerful title de law. His poison seemed simple, but it wasn't weak at all. As the poisonous fog dispersed, streaks of faint green poisonous gas surged wildly into Wang Kai's body. They quickly passed through his skin and entered Wang Kai's body. Compared to the poisonous gas that enveloped the poison array outside the valley, the poison that Dugubo released this time was undoubtedly more concentrated and powerful. However, the moment the poisonous gas entered Wang Kai's body, the cooling medicinal strength of the antidote pill formed by the grade 9 dragon Ganoderma, delicate fragrance and beauty, and singular velvet sky chrysanthemum immediately surrounded him. It enveloped almost all of the poisonous gas and quickly neutralized and dispersed it. After being neutralized by the antidote pill, more than 99% of the poisonous gas that Dugubo released this time was completely neutralized. The remaining 1% of the poisonous gas entered Wang Kai's tendons and meridians and clashed intensely with Shura's baleful aura and yin and yang power that had already gathered there. They were outnumbered. Although Dugubo's poisonous gas was very strong, the remaining poisonous gas was quickly destroyed by Shura's baleful aura and yin and yang power. Wang Kai's expression didn't change as he stood in the poisonous fog. He didn't move at all. After half a minute, he slowly opened his mouth and asked, "Elder, have I passed your first test?" The poisonous fog that Dugubo released this time was only a probing attack. Its strength was at most slightly stronger than the poisonous liquid attack that he had used on Wang Kai the first time. Wang Kai could already resist an attack of this level before he cultivated his yin-yang body and consumed the antidote pill, let alone now. "Not bad. You passed the first test." Dugubo nodded. His eyes flickered with green light. After that, he flipped his palm, and a small jade-green snake appeared in his palm. "For the second test, you just have to let it bite you." As he spoke, he tossed the small snake towards Wang Kai. Chapter 116. Yes, Elder. With lightning speed, Wang Kai's right hand had already grabbed onto the small snake's weak point and lifted it into the air. This little snake's body was almost completely transparent, and its length was about 20 centimeters. Looking through the transparent skin, there was a faint green light flowing inside the snake's body. In addition, there were 9 horizontal stripes on its body, like bamboo joints. Its head was sharp and small, and there was a small red eye on each side of its head. It looked very cute, but its small eyes were filled with murderous intent. This snake looked very small and didn't seem like a dangerous or poisonous creature. However, Wang Kai knew that this snake was a top-grade item of the green bamboo leaf, the 9-joint jadeite. Its body and teeth were as hard as refined iron that had been tempered thousands of times. It could even bite through thick armor. Not only that, but its toxicity was also very frightening. Once poisoned, even a soul sage would find it difficult to resist. In less than an hour, they would turn into a puddle of water and die. Standing aside, Dugabo was secretly surprised when he saw that Wang Kai could easily lift the 9-section jadeite that he had thrown out. The 9-joint jadeite was very fast, and its body was also very small. Without a certain level of cultivation, it would be very difficult to catch it. Dugabo confirmed his guess when he saw Wang Kai's skillful movements. "This is my second test for you. Let it bite you. I want to see blood. Do you dare?" Dugabo asked plainly as he placed his hands behind his back. "Of course. But please wait a moment, Elder." After he finished speaking, Wang Kai's mind moved, and he retrieved the delicate fragrance and beauty that he had prepared earlier. He held it in front of him with his left hand. Suddenly, a faint pink light was released from the delicate fragrance and beauty, and it enveloped Wang Kai's body completely. Space-type soul tool. Dugubo's eyes narrowed when he saw Wang Kai's movements. He was a little surprised as he asked, "Senior's eyes are as sharp as torches." Wang Kai nodded and flattered Dugubo, "Yes, this is indeed a spatial soul tool. To be able to possess a spatial soul tool as a soul king, this youth must be from one of those hidden ancient clans." Listening to Wang Kai's words, Dugubo was undoubtedly more convinced of his conjecture about Wang Kai's identity. While answering, Wang Kai slightly loosened his right hand's fingers that were pinching the 9-section jadeite and gently moved the snake's head to the side of his left arm. Feeling the smell of flesh and blood, 9-jointed jadeite opened its small mouth and bit Wang Kai's arm. Hiss, hiss, accompanied by a somewhat painful hiss, the 9-section jadeite's body suddenly twisted. This bite did not even manage to bite Wang Kai's skin. Instead, it made its teeth hurt slightly. Although he didn't unleash the strongest state of Emperor Shura's possession, Wang Kai's body had been influenced by Emperor Shura's martial soul and the chaotic mountain river cauldron, and he had just consumed the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum and the narcissus jade skin bone, which were immortal-grade spiritual herbs with miraculous effects for tempering one's body. Wang Kai's body had reached a very frightening level, and it was extremely tough. It wasn't inferior to ordinary refined iron. On the other hand, although 9-jointed jadeite was an extremely poisonous item, it was still within the range of Wang Kai's delicate fragrance and beauty. As a poisonous item, it was suppressed by delicate fragrance and beauty and couldn't unleash its full strength. In addition to Wang Kai's strong body, it was naturally unable to do anything. "Kid, what a frightening body." Dugabo couldn't help but sigh in admiration when he saw that 9-jointed jadeite couldn't break through Wang Kai's defenses. 9-jointed jadeite was an extremely poisonous item that could break through a soul sage's defenses. However, this youth in front of him was able to resist it as a soul king. He was truly worthy of being the successor of one of the legendary ancient clans. Seeing that 9-jointed jadeite couldn't break through his defenses, Wang Kai moved his right hand slightly and brought 9-jointed jadeite's head closer to his finger. This time, 9-jointed jadeite finally managed to break through Wang Kai's defenses, and its teeth sank into Wang Kai's flesh. There wasn't any pain when 9-jointed jadeite bit into Wang Kai's skin. All Wang Kai felt was a slight numbness on his finger and a slight itch. But in the next moment, that numbness spread through Wang Kai's arm at an alarming speed. In just a few seconds, Wang Kai's hand and forearm that had been bitten had turned a deep jade green color. "Oh no, I can't let a successor of one of the ancient clans die here." Dugabo cursed in his heart when he saw this. He prepared to detoxify Wang Kai's poison. Although 9-jointed jadeite was extremely poisonous to others, it wasn't much to Dugabo. Dugabo could be said to be the ancestor of all snakes after cultivating his jadeite snake to the level of a jadeite snake emperor. It was extremely easy for him to detoxify the poison of 9-jointed jadeite. But at this moment, a strange combination of gray and white flashed across Wang Kai's jade green arm. In the next moment, the jade green color that had been spreading on Wang Kai's arm suddenly stopped and rapidly faded. In less than a minute, Wang Kai's arm had returned to its original state. Although delicate fragrance and beauty couldn't detoxify the poison in his body, it could still reduce the toxicity of nine-jointed jadeite to its lowest level. After being weakened by the detoxification elixir made from 3 heaven-tier herbs, the remaining poison was still much stronger than the poison from the first test. However, it was quickly detoxified by the power of yin and yang in Wang Kai's body and Shura's murderous aura. Not bad. Dugubo nodded and said, Wang Feng, I now believe that you have the ability to detoxify me and my granddaughter. The third test that I set up was too dangerous. Once it was carried out, even I wouldn't be able to control it. Since you've already proven yourself, there's no need to carry it out. After hearing Dugubo's words, a hint of joy appeared on Wang Kai's face, and he hurriedly expressed his gratitude. Thank you for your mercy, Senior. Wang Kai was an idiot. He was very clear about the dangers of the third test. Therefore, Wang Kai wasn't stupid enough to continue provoking Dugubo like Tang San had done. Don't thank me. There's no need to thank me. Your performance has already proven your ability. Now, you can tell me how you're going to treat me and my granddaughter. Now that the test was over, Dugubo continued to ask questions. Chapter 117. Yes, Senior. However, I'll have to ask you to swear on your Tao heart first before I can tell you the treatment method with confidence. Wang Kai said slowly as he returned the 9-section jadeite to Dugubo and put the delicate fragrance and beauty back into his small plane. Of course. Dugubo nodded before he said solemnly, the poison Dugubo, swear on my Tao heart that I won't hurt you if you can cure the poison in my body, and I'll let you leave safely. If you can also cure the poison in my granddaughter's body, then I'll agree to 3 additional requests that don't violate my principles. Dugubo had already acknowledged Wang Kai as the successor of those ancient families, so he didn't want to kill Wang Kai in the first place. After hearing Wang Kai's request, he immediately swore on his Tao heart. Thank you, Senior. After seeing Dugubo swear, Wang Kai continued, the treatment method that I'm going to tell you may exceed your knowledge, but I can swear that it can definitely cure the poison in your body. Therefore, please listen to my explanation patiently. No problem. Dugubo nodded slightly. However, I don't think that the treatment method that you're going to tell me will exceed my knowledge. I've lived for so long, but I've never seen anything that exceeds my knowledge. You can speak with confidence. Thank you for your understanding, Senior. After he finished speaking, Wang Kai took a few steps forward in the direction of the ice fire, yin-yang well. He pointed at the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot on either side of the ice fire yin-yang well, and said, the treatment method that I'm going to tell you is to consume these 2 herbs at the same time. These 2 herbs? Dugubo's brows immediately furrowed when he heard Wang Kai's words. One of these 2 herbs is extremely cold, while the other is extremely hot. Kid, you're not trying to kill me in the name of treatment, are you? Let me tell you, I'm not young anymore, but my mind is still very clear. Dugubo had a deep impression of the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot that Wang Kai was pointing at. After all, he had personally tested these 2 herbs before. These 2 herbs contained extreme yin poison and fire poison respectively. Even with his cultivation, he couldn't stay by their side for too long. Therefore, Dugubo immediately became very suspicious when he heard Wang Kai's words. That's not the case. Elder, please listen to my explanation. Wang Kai shook his head and continued. Indeed, these 2 herbs are extremely poisonous. If an ordinary person were to get within 10 meters of them, they would be frozen or turned into ashes within a few minutes, not to mention eating them. However, as the saying goes, yin and yang mutually restrict each other, and ice and fire mutually restrict each other. When these 2 extreme herbs are placed together, they will neutralize each other and their toxicity will be greatly reduced. That is also the only opportunity to consume them. I see. Dugubo nodded when he heard Wang Kai's words. He didn't know that these 2 herbs could be consumed in this way. However, he was still a little confused and continued to ask, Kid, you're quite knowledgeable. However, what does this have to do with the treatment of the poison in my body? Senior, don't be anxious. I think that since you chose this place to cultivate, you must have felt the benefits of this unique environment for your body. I'm sure you've experienced it firsthand. Once you enter this valley, especially when you're near this spring, the poison in your body will be suppressed and your body won't be tortured by pain. Am I right? Wang Kai smiled brightly when he heard Dugubo's question. You're right. Dugubo nodded when he heard Wang Kai's question. The reason why you won't be tortured by the poison in this place is because of this spring. The extreme chill in spring and the blazing sun spring in this spring are extremely effective against any poison. The spring water is also impervious to all poisons. Normal soul masters won't be able to tolerate the environment here. Even powerful soul beasts won't be able to. However, the aura of this spring can suppress the poison in your body and prevent it from acting up. Wang Kai continued to explain. Are you saying that if I consume these two herbs together, I can achieve a similar effect? As a titled Daloa, Dugubo wasn't stupid. Since Wang Kai had already said so much, Dugubo had already guessed most of it. That's right. Wang Kai nodded and said, after consuming them, the ice and fire toxins in these two herbs will complement each other instead of repealing each other. This will create a unique environment in your body that's similar to this spring. Although the effects of this small spring can't be compared to the big spring here, it's advantageous because it's in your body. It can perfectly suppress the poison in your body. Even if it can't completely neutralize the poison, it can completely suppress the poison in your body so that you won't be harmed in the future. Is that so? Dugubo muttered in disbelief. After that, he continued to ask, however, there's only one of these two herbs. Even if I'm cured, what about my granddaughter? That's simple. Wang Kai smiled faintly and said, as long as you refine these two herbs, your body will naturally carry the medicinal effects of these two herbs. Your granddaughter is still young, and her body won't be as damaged as yours. Therefore, as long as you give your granddaughter your blood for about a year, her body will naturally be cured. Dugubo furrowed his brow and thought for a moment. Finally, he made up his mind and said, all right, I'll believe you this once. But for now, please eat this first. Although my old life isn't worth much, I still want to live for a few more years. If you kill me, then please be buried with me. As he spoke, Dugubo opened his mouth and spat out a beam of green light. It was a jade-green pearl. Under the control of Dugubo's soul power, the jade-green pearl slowly drifted towards Wang Kai. Wang Kai opened his right hand and allowed it to land his palm. This was the core that Dugubo's martial soul, the jade-scaled snake, had condensed when it evolved into a snake empress. Half of his strength was contained within this core. If it exploded within his body, even a peerless Daloa would be fatally injured. Faced with such a strange treatment method, this was a backup plan that Dugubo had left behind. Of course, Wang Kai didn't hesitate at all. He directly threw the pearl into his mouth and swallowed it. However, he was laughing in his heart. To him, who had a small plane, Dugubo's plan was just a joke. Chapter 118. Not bad. It seems like you're not lying to me. Dugubo nodded in satisfaction as he watched Wang Kai swallow his pill so decisively. He felt a lot more at ease. No one would joke around with their own life. The actions of a young man in front of him undoubtedly proved that he was not lying to him. Of course I won't lie to you, Elder. Wang Kai nodded seriously, but he was laughing in his heart. Yes, I'm not lying to you. Consuming and refining the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot can indeed remove the poison in your body. However, I won't tell you that these two herbs will also remove all the poison and soul power in your body. No matter how strong Dugubo was, he wouldn't know that there was such a magical treasure in this world. It could actually store a pill that had been swallowed into one's stomach. It was important to note that spatial soul tools would draw upon a mysterious spatial power when they were used to collect items. If a soul master dared to use a spatial soul tool to collect an item from his or her body, the powerful spatial power would immediately grind the soul master's body into pieces. However, with the help of the small plane, Wang Kai could easily destroy the pill that Dugubo had been trying so hard to make him swallow. You actually dare to threaten me? Once you lose all your cultivation, this ice-fire yin-yang well will be your burial ground. You old dog. I'm sure killing a tidal dolua will bring me a lot of benefits. Wang Kai was still very respectful as he thought about this. Dugu Bo revealed a smile on his face when he heard Wang Kai's reply. He consoled him, Wang Feng, you don't have to worry. I can roughly guess your identity. As long as you can treat my poison, I'll definitely let you leave safely. After pausing for a moment, Dugu Bo continued. As for this pill, it'll only be beneficial to your cultivation as long as you don't play any tricks. Not only will it not leave any poison in your body, but it will also increase the concentration of your soul power. Once you treat my granddaughter, I'll naturally guide it out. I understand, Elder. He nodded after hearing Dugu Bo's words. Indeed, after Dugu Bo's pill entered his body, Wang Kai only felt a warmth in his abdomen. He didn't feel any discomfort. On the contrary, the warmth in his abdomen spread to every part of Wang Kai's body. There was an indescribable comfort. As a tidal law, Dugu Bo's soul power was comparable to that of a 100,000-year soul beast. As a treasure that contained half of Dugu Bo's abilities, the pill that Dugu Bo fed Wang Kai was at least equivalent to a treasure at the peak of the 8th or 9th heaven rank. There was no need to doubt its benefits. Seeing that Wang Kai didn't have any objections, Dugu Bo asked again, Wang Feng, how do I harvest and consume these two herbs? How do I refine them after consuming them? Tell me. Yes, Elder. There are special ways to harvest, consume, and refine the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot. Elder, please allow me to explain slowly. After he finished speaking, Wang Kai continued after seeing Dugu Bo slowly nod his head. There are special ways to harvest these two herbs. The blazing delicate apricot that grows on one side of the Yang Spring has to be harvested with tools made of jade. The star anise mysterious ice grass that grows on the other side of the Yin Spring has to be harvested with tools made of gold. Otherwise, the medicinal effects will be damaged, and it won't be beneficial for your treatment. Tools made of gold and jade. After hearing Wang Kai's words, Dugu Bo furrowed his brow. As a tidal law, it was naturally impossible for him not to obtain gold and jade. However, he didn't bring these gold and white items with him when he left. Don't worry, Elder. Wang Kai immediately understood the meaning behind Dugu Bo's words. I happen to have the appropriate tools with me. I will naturally harvest these two herbs for you. After that, I'll talk about the things you need to take note of when consuming and refining these two herbs. Oh, you're well prepared. Continue. Dugu Bo nodded his head in satisfaction. Both of these herbs are extremely poisonous. If taken alone, no matter which one it is, it will cause death to a person. Therefore, you have to place these two herbs together before consuming them. In that case, their medicinal effects will be suppressed, and you can only consume them then. I see. Dugu Bo was enlightened as he said, in that case, quickly go and harvest them. Elder, don't be anxious. Wang Kai shook his head. Although these two herbs can be consumed after merging with each other, this consumable state will only last for a short 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, their effects will completely disappear. Therefore, I'll explain to you how to refine their medicinal effects before you consume them. There's actually such a thing. Dugu Bo revealed a look of shock on his face. After that, he said, continue. Although the medicinal effects of the two herbs will cancel each other out after they come into contact with each other, and they can be consumed, you'll still have to endure a very strong baptism of ice and fire if you consume them. Therefore, you have to use your soul power to guide the medicinal effects when you refine the herbs and protect your body and tendons. At the same time, when Senior cultivates, it's best if you cultivate near the mouth of the spring. Only by borrowing the power of ice and fire within the mouth of the spring can you achieve the best effect of detoxification. Hearing Dugu Bo's words, Wang Kai opened his mouth again and spoke tirelessly. Yes, I understand. Dugu Bo nodded his head gently. After that, he instructed, all right, help me retrieve these two herbs now. Elder, you only have one chance to pick and consume these two herbs. If you hesitate, the medicinal effects of these two herbs will disappear. If that's the case, I won't be able to do anything about the poison in your body. Therefore, have you made up your mind to consume them? Wang Kai asked. Of course. How can I hesitate when I, Bo, have decided to do something? Don't worry and just go and retrieve the herbs. After hearing Wang Kai's words, Bo's voice was stern as he replied in a deep voice. All right, I'll retrieve the herbs for you. However, I'll have to ask you to stand at the spot that I've pointed out. The effects of refining the medicinal effects are best there. After he finished speaking, Wang Kai extended his hand and pointed at the center of the ice fire yin yang well, where the yin and yang springs merged. It was about 5 meters away from the spring. Bo didn't say anything. He strode forward and stood at the spot that Wang Kai had pointed out. After seeing that Bo was ready, Wang Kai retrieved a golden dagger from his pocket dimension and rushed towards the star anise mysterious ice grass beside the yin spring. Chapter 119. It was a strange herb that was completely white. Its top looked like a huge, white flower that was blooming. However, its petals weren't round at all. Instead, they were octagonal in shape. In the center of the flower, there were flower buds that sparkled like ice crystals. They were exceptionally beautiful, but they didn't give off any fragrance. It was located right in the center of the extreme chill nether spring. Before he even got close to the star anise mysterious ice grass, Wang Kai could already feel a strong chill coming towards him. A layer of white frost started to appear on the surface of his skin. Wang Kai channeled his soul power, and Shura's scales started to grow on the surface of his body. They kept the bone-chilling cold outside his body. At the same time, Shura's scales started to burn with a layer of red-black Shura's blazing flames. They kept on dispelling the invading cold. Wang Kai continued to walk towards the star anise mysterious ice grass. Very soon, he was within a meter of the star anise mysterious ice grass. At this moment, Wang Kai's body started to tremble even with the dual protection of Shura's scales and Shura's blazing flames. This was because he was enduring the terrifying chill. At this distance, the temperature was close to negative 150 degrees Celsius. Even a soul sage who had activated his martial soul true body wouldn't be able to last 5 minutes in such a temperature. Fortunately, Wang Kai only wanted to pluck this herb. He didn't need to stay for long. Wang Kai didn't dare to wait or hesitate. His golden dagger slashed through the air with a blinding streak of golden light. At the same time, his fifth soul ring flashed behind him. Shura's instant hell shadow stab. The next moment, Wang Kai's figure appeared in the open space 10 meters away. As the cold light of Wang Kai's dagger flashed, the octagonal white flower also fell to the ground, falling into the midst of the medicinal herbs. At that moment, waves of cold air spread out in all directions. The herbs within a few meters of the star anise mysterious ice grass were covered in a thin layer of white frost. Although he had used Shura's instant hell shadow dagger to escape quickly, Wang Kai's arm that was holding the dagger was covered in a layer of blue ice that was several centimeters thick because of the close contact with the star anise mysterious ice grass in less than 10 milliseconds. The extremely cold air even penetrated into his blood through the thick Shura's scales, causing his blood to partially freeze. Wang Kai suddenly activated Shura's baleful aura in his meridians to disperse the cold chi that had entered his body. With a shake of his arm, he shattered the blue ice around Shura's scales. However, Wang Kai did not linger around the star anise mysterious ice grass, nor did he dare to pick it up. Instead, Wang Kai quickly ran to the center of the blazing sun spring on the other side of the ice fire, yin yang well. This time, his target was a plant that looked like a cabbage, but was completely red. The blazing delicate apricot was an item of extreme yang that had been born from the vast amount of yang qi in the ice fire, yin yang well. It could even survive in lava, and all of its uses were the exact opposite of the star anise mysterious ice grass. As he got closer and closer to the blazing delicate apricot, the temperature in the environment started to rise rapidly. Even though Wang Kai was still several meters away from the blazing delicate apricot, the temperature in the environment had already reached over 100 degrees Celsius. Wang Kai withdrew his golden dagger. This time, he thought of something and retrieved a jade spade made of jadeite from his small plane. After that, he activated his soul power again. His fourth black soul ring flashed behind him. In the next moment, streaks of extremely dense blood-red, murderous aura crazily condensed around Wang Kai's body. The projection of an extremely formidable blood-red armor appeared on the surface of Wang Kai's body before it finally took form. In the center of this armor, there was a huge Wang word that was shining with blood-red radiance. It flashed with golden light onto the sunlight and appeared extremely mighty and domineering. Dugu Bo revealed a look of astonishment in his eyes when he saw Wang Kai unleash his soul skill. Good fellow, he's indeed the successor of a hidden ancient clan. He actually obtained a 10,000-year soul ring on his fourth soul ring. At the same time, Dugu Bo couldn't help but rejoice over his previous decision. A monstrous genius like Wang Kai would definitely be one of the top, even among the reclusive ancient clans. If he really killed him, it would definitely bring about endless trouble. Even those reclusive, old monsters of the ancient clans might descend into the world because of this. It was definitely impractical to kill this youth in front of him. However, his previous actions had definitely offended him. What if he held a grudge against him? Should he let him freely collect the natural treasures around this spring as compensation? No, that's definitely not enough. Or should I betroth Yin to him and become his in-laws? No, that's definitely not possible. Even if I want to betroth my daughter to him, he definitely won't be interested in her. For an outstanding genius like Wang Kai, he must only be thinking about conquering the goddesses and holy ladies of the other ancient clans. Why would he be interested in an old titled Doloa's daughter? Just as many thoughts flashed through Dugu Bo's mind, Wang Kai also moved. After summoning Shura's monarch armor, Wang Kai's speed increased by 30%. In almost an instant, Wang Kai had already arrived beside the fiery red, blazing delicate apricot. At this moment, the surrounding temperature had already exceeded 1,000 degrees Celsius. Fortunately, Wang Kai was protected by both Shura's monarch armor and Shura's scales. His body wasn't affected by the flames and temperature. Wang Kai swiftly waved both of his hands, waving his jade shovel and digging out the blazing, delicate apricot from its roots. After completing this simple action, Wang Kai activated his soul skill again. His fifth soul ring flashed behind him, and he appeared 10 meters away. Although he had only been in contact with the blazing, delicate apricot for less than 1/10 of a second, Wang Kai's jadeite shovel had completely melted. It turned into a thick liquid that dripped onto the ground. Not only that, but the Shura's scales on Wang Kai's palm that was close to the blazing, delicate apricot had also turned slightly black in this short period of time. There was even a faint burnt smell coming from it. Elder, I've already harvested these 2 herbs for you. Next, you just need to use your soul power to bring these 2 herbs closer to you. After 3 seconds, you can consume and refine them after their medicinal effects have been neutralized. However, this junior will take the liberty of reminding senior that these 2 herbs can only take effect for 10 seconds. After harvesting them, Wang Kai kept the Shura's scales and Shura's monarch armor on his body. He came to Dugu Bo's side and said, "Stand back. When I'm refining these herbs, you're not allowed to come within 10 meters of me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless and releasing the poisonous gas from the pill." After hearing Wang Kai's words, Dugu Bo reminded him. After that, he sent 2 streaks of soul power towards the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing, delicate apricot on both sides of the ice fire Yin Yang well. Chapter 120. Elder, I understand. Wang Kai replied respectfully, but he was laughing in his heart. Hee, old dog, the pill that you're so proud of is useless to me. Once you've refined these 2 herbs, you can die obediently and become the resources for my advancement. However, Wang Kai wasn't in a hurry to keep the pill into a small plane, even though he had the means to counter the pill. After all, the pill was formed from Dugu Bo's lifetime of cultivation and was connected to his heart's blood. Right now, his strength hadn't disappeared, and Hu Hao couldn't alert him. Otherwise, once Dugu Bo discovered that he was making any strange movements, he would only have a dead end. Even though Dugu Bo wasn't willing to kill Wang Kai, That was on the premise that Wang Kai wouldn't threaten his life. Otherwise, Dugabo would not have shown mercy even if Wang Kai was the incarnation of a god, let alone the fact that Wang Kai was the successor of a hidden ancient clan. Seeing that Wang Kai was standing far away, Dugabo smiled faintly. If that rascal wasn't lying to him, the stubbornness that had troubled him for decades would soon disappear. Sitting down cross-legged, a dark green light surged from Dugabo's body. Under his control, two streaks of dense green soul power with hints of purple shot out at the same time. Their targets were the blazing delicate apricot and the star anise mysterious ice grass, both of which were extremely poisonous. Of these two plants, one was extremely hot, while the other was extremely cold. Normal soul masters' soul power would be dispersed before they could even get close. However, Dugabo was a tidal daw after all. Under the control of his boundless soul power, the two plants flew up at the same time and rapidly drew closer to him. At the same time, streaks of soul power also gathered in front of him, isolating the extreme cold and extreme heat from the two plants outside of his body. The blazing delicate apricot and the star anise mysterious ice grass arrived in front of Dugabo at almost the same time and leaned against each other under his control. At this moment, something magical happened. The two herbs were originally extremely hot and cold, but when they came into contact with each other, the hot and cold auras disappeared at the same time. It seems like that rascal wasn't lying to me. As he sensed the changes in the two herbs in front of him, Dugabo was elated. Without any hesitation, he reached out to grab the herbs in midair and stuff them into his mouth. Although these two herbs were extremely poisonous, they were no longer as domineering as before after being restrained by their nemesis. They melted in his mouth and turned into a sweet liquid that flowed down his back and into Dugabo's stomach. In just a few breaths' time, Dugabo's body suddenly trembled violently. Following this, a layer of icy blue rose from beneath his feet. In the blink of an eye, Dugabo's entire body turned blue. Following this, another layer of red rose. Right now, Dugabo looked like a dumpling that had just been cooked. What a strong medicinal effect. Dugabo was slightly shocked as he sensed the vigorous ice and fire medicinal effects rising in his tendons and veins. However, Wang Kai had already told him what would happen after consuming these two herbs. He wasn't too surprised because of this. Instead, he frantically refined the medicinal effects in his body according to Wang Kai's instructions. It's effective. That rascal wasn't lying to me. As soon as the balls of ice and fire were refined, Dugabo immediately realized that the poison in his body was suppressed. A smile appeared on his face. Dugabo's soul power surged and surrounded the balls of ice and fire in his veins and veins. 1 hour, 2 hours, balls of ice and fire were refined by Dugabo. However, more and more of the power of ice and fire continued to enter his body. At this moment, Dugabo was pleasantly surprised to discover that the poison in his body had been reduced by almost 50%. However, he didn't realize that his soul power had quietly fallen below rank 90 under the influence of the powerful ice and fire. He had returned to the level of a soul Doloa, soul sage, soul emperor. As time passed, Dugabo's aura continued to decline. After 10 hours, Dugabo's poison had almost completely dissipated. He had also fallen to the level of soul emperor. However, Dugabo was only immersed in the pleasure of the poison disappearing under the cover of the vigorous ice and fire medicinal effects in his body. He didn't realize that his soul power had changed at all. Great! Wang Kai couldn't help but smile when he sensed the change in Dugabo's aura. The more medicinal effects Dugabo refined, the more his strength would decline. This made it easier for Wang Kai to kill him. As long as his soul power fell to the level of the Soul King, Wang Kai would have a very high chance of killing him. Wang Kai was also calculating in his heart as he looked at the blue leather pouch on Dugabo's waist. Although it was only the size of 2 adult palms, Wang Kai knew that there was something else inside this seemingly ordinary leather pouch. This was the Rui Dimensional Treasure Pouch, a spatial soul tool that could store living things. If Wang Kai wanted to kill Dugabo, this Rui Dimensional Treasure Pouch would be the first thing he had to snatch. The poisoned Doa Dugabo had always been very cautious. Wang Kai didn't know whether he had hidden any hidden weapons or poisons in his Rui Dimensional Treasure Pouch. As a titled Doloa, these hidden weapons could definitely threaten Wang Kai's life, even if Dugabo had lost all his soul power. Therefore, before the battle, Wang Kai had to make snatching the Rui Dimensional Treasure Pouch his #1 goal. Soul Emperor, Soul King, Soul Ancestor, Soul Elder. Another few hours passed, and the effects of the ice and fire medicine in Dugubo's body finally subsided. Dugubo was about to thank Wang Kai when he sensed that the poison in his body was almost completely gone. Suddenly, a look of astonishment appeared on his face. "Where's my soul power? Why is it that, as a titled Doloa, my soul power can't even compare to his soul ancestors?" "Oh, the old dog is awake? That's great. His soul power has fallen to the level of a soul elder. Today, I can completely kill him. However, before that, I'll kindly accept your pill first." Wang Kai, who had been observing Dugubo from the side, also discovered Dugubo's reaction. He was extremely happy and immediately thought of something. In the next moment, Dugubo's pill disappeared from Wang Kai's stomach and entered the small plane. "Impossible. Why did my pill disappear as well?" The astonishment on Dugubo's face became even heavier when he sensed the pill that was connected to his heart's blood disappear. A mouthful of blood went up his throat, but Dugubo forcefully held it back. At this time, he absolutely couldn't show his cowardice. "Wang Feng, brat, what did you do to me and my pill?" Dugubo asked in a deep voice while pretending to be dignified. "Haha, old dog, you didn't expect this, did you? Don't pretend to be calm. I know your current body's condition like the back of my hand. You've already fallen into my trap." Wang Kai laughed loudly. "These 2 herbs can indeed dissolve the poison in your body. But what I didn't tell you is that they can also dissolve the poison and soul power that you've cultivated your entire life. Your current soul power can't even compare to a soul ancestor's, right? Old dog, you actually dared to threaten me before. Next year, today will be your death anniversary. Go to hell." Chapter 121. How shameless. Even if I don't have my soul power, I can still easily suppress a mere soul king like you with my physique and fighting techniques as a titled Doloa. "You bastard. How dare you take away my soul power that I've painstakingly cultivated? When I capture you, I'll use countless methods to torture you. I'll make you beg for death." As he spoke through gritted teeth, Dugubo's right hand secretly reached for the Rui 100 Treasures pouch on his waist. "Old dog, you want to kill me? You don't have a chance anymore." As he shouted coldly, Wang Kai crazily activated the soul power in his body. He wasn't in a hurry to use his 100,000-year soul skill. Instead, Wang Kai activated his soul bone's skill and domain. Blackstone Bind, Gravitational Domain. In the next moment, the Blackstone Emperor Snake right arm bone on Wang Kai's right hand shone slightly. A lifelike projection of the Blackstone Emperor Snake flew out from his right arm and enlarged in the air. At the same time, it shot towards Dugubo's body and bound his arms to his sides. He couldn't move at all. At the same time, a dim yellow domain engulfed Dugubo completely. Suddenly, Dugubo felt the gravitational force on his body double. The ground beneath his feet also caved in because of the weight. "Insignificant." As he snorted, Dugubo's arms shook as he tried to break free from the Blackstone Emperor Snake. However, Dugubo was shocked to discover that the Blackstone Emperor Snake's projection only flickered slightly under his all-out attack. It didn't dissipate. What a powerful soul bone. Seeing that his attack wasn't effective, Dugubo revealed a look of shock in his eyes. Although Dugubo's jade-scaled Snake Emperor wasn't an assault-type martial soul, he was still a titled Doloa. Even if he lost all his soul power, his physical strength was still comparable to a 10,000-year soul beast or a top-tier soul emperor. A soul bone's soul skill could resist his attack. This meant that this youth in front of him had at least a 10,000-year soul bone. A 10,000-year soul bone. Even as a titled Delois, he only had one. He didn't expect this youth, who was only a soul king, to have one too. As he thought until here, Dagobah revealed a look of greed in his eyes. At this moment, Wang Kai also moved. Shura's instant hell shadow stab. Wang Kai's fifth soul ring. Wang Kai appeared in the next moment. Dagobah was Dagobah's, he was soul skill. Damn it! Dagobah cursed in his heart. His hands were bound, and he couldn't block Hui Yuhao's attack. However, as a titled Delois, Dagobah's fighting instincts were still active. He tilted his body slightly and dodged to the side to avoid Wang Kai's attack. At the same time, he gathered the remaining soul power in his body and channeled it to his head. Although Dagobah's cultivation had fallen to that of a soul elder, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Dagobah's foundation as a titled Delois was still there. It could be said that a normal Soul King soul power was only on par with Dagobah's. Not only that, after consuming the blazing delicate apricot and star anise mysterious ice grass, Dagobah's cultivation had temporarily fallen to that of a soul elder. However, there was still a large amount of medicinal power left in his body. This vigorous medicinal power could allow his soul power to recover quickly, and he wouldn't be in a state of depletion. As soul power was channeled into his body, Dagobah's eyes, which were originally flashing with a faint green light, instantly turned a terrifying white. A ferocious layer of grayish-white light was brewing in his eyes. Medusa's gaze. Following this, Dagobah aimed his eyes at Wang Kai and unleashed the strongest attack from the 10,000-year Medusa's skull that he had absorbed. This was also one of his trump cards. In the next moment, two pale white rays of light shot out from Dagobah's eyes, which had turned white. They traversed space and shot towards Wang Kai, who wasn't too far away. After unleashing this attack, Dagobah was still panting a little, even though he had the remaining medicinal power to replenish himself. However, Dagobah also knew that he couldn't afford to waste even a second at a time like this. Therefore, even though he was a little tired, he still pushed his arms to his sides and viciously tore apart the projection of the Blackstone Emperor snake that was trapping his arms. Yes, as a titled Daw, Dagobah's title was poison, but he possessed far more than just that. This was a skill that came from the second, most important skull of a soul master's 6 orthodox soul bones, Medusa's gaze. It was one of his strongest techniques. Right now, even though Dagobah's soul power had been greatly reduced, and he was barely able to unleash Medusa's gaze, the strength of this soul skill couldn't be underestimated. Once struck, even a soul emperor would be turned into a stone statue and die instantly. Even a soul sage who had unleashed his martial soul true body would be partially petrified and lose his ability to move. He might even lose a part of his body forever. As he looked at the two white rays of petrification that were shooting towards him, Wang Kai revealed a serious look in his eyes. From these two rays of light, Wang Kai could feel the instinctive vigilance of Emperor Shura's martial soul. If he was struck by Medusa's gaze, it was obvious that even if Wang Kai didn't die, he would definitely lose his ability to move, and he would lose the initiative. Once Dagobah took out the poisons and hidden weapons that he had kept in his Rui dimensional treasure pouch, Wang Kai wouldn't be able to resist his all-out attack. Even though Wang Kai was able to resist Dagobah's Jade-Scale Snake Emperor's poisonous fog, Wang Kai knew that Dagobah was definitely going easy on him. It could be said that the strength of Dagobah's poison during the test wasn't even 1,000th of what he was at his peak. Wang Kai was only able to survive because of this. Once Dagobah used all his poison, perhaps only a top-tier soul Delois or a titled Delois of the same level would be able to resist it. However, the prerequisite for this was that the ray of petrification could hit Wang Kai. As a battle-hardened soul master, how could Wang Kai be so stupid as to allow Dagobah's ray of petrification to strike his body? As he crazily channeled the soul power in his veins, the chaotic mountain river cauldron instantly condensed in front of Wang Kai. At the same time, red lights flashed behind him. Mysterious earth protection. Mysterious earth protection. Mysterious earth protection. The chaotic mountain river cauldron in front of Wang Kai shook 3 times, and 3 extremely heavy streaks of mysterious earth energy appeared from the cauldron's mouth. They condensed into 3 extremely sturdy, mysterious earth barriers in front of him, and he continued to attack Dugu Bo under the astonished Dugu Bo. Chapter 122. Twin Martial Souls? 100,000-year soul ring? How is this possible? Looking at Wang Kai's actions, Dugu Bo's face revealed an expression of disbelief. His heart was like a raging storm. Who exactly was this soul king in front of him? How many tricks did he have up his sleeves? Just as Dugu Bo was still in shock, a Wang sound rang out. The pale white petrifying light collided violently with Wang Kai's first layer of the mysterious yellow barrier. In the blink of an eye, the pale yellow mysterious yellow barrier was completely dyed white. Following that, an even more shocking scene occurred. The mysterious yellow barrier that was hit by the petrifying light actually underwent a qualitative change in the air. The originally illusory energy became solid and turned into a thin, curved stone that fell from the sky and shattered into pieces. It was indeed worthy of being one of Dugu Bo's trump cards as a title Dolua. The strength of this Medusa's gaze was indeed terrifying. However, although the effects were remarkable, the petrifying light of the mysterious yellow barrier had been depleted by 1/3 of its power after shattering it. Its color had also become a little dimmer. However, it still streaked across the sky with an unstoppable aura and rushed towards Wang Kai's second layer of the mysterious yellow barrier. Compared to the first layer of the mysterious yellow barrier, the second layer of the mysterious yellow barrier was undoubtedly able to withstand the petrifying light of the mysterious yellow barrier for a longer period of time. However, it was still turned into stone in the end. It crashed heavily onto the ground and turned into crushed stones of various sizes. After breaking through 2 layers of the mysterious yellow barrier, Dugu Bo's Medusa's gaze had finally depleted more than half of its power. Its color had also turned into a pale, milky white color. When it hit the 3rd layer of the mysterious yellow barrier, it only managed to turn the surface of the 3rd layer of the mysterious yellow barrier into a faint layer of stone. It was unable to break through it. However, taking advantage of the time when Dugu Bo's attack was blocked, Wang Kai had already charged towards him. Old dog, give me your life. Black and yellow chi. Suppress. The first red halo behind him flashed, and a stream of Xian Wang chi emerged from the chaotic mountain and river cauldron and violently suppressed Dugu Bo. In that instant, Dugu Bo felt as if his speed had decreased by 30%, and even the circulation of soul force within his body had stagnated. In the next moment, Wang Kai stretched out his hand and grabbed. He directly seized the Ru 100 treasures pouch from Dugu Bo's waist, and then he put it away into his pocket dimension. How is that possible? How do you know this? Seeing the Ru 100 treasures pouch that contained his life-saving treasure being taken away by Wang Kai, Dugu Bo's vision couldn't help but darken. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he also knew that now was not the time to lament or hesitate. Moreover, even if he lost the Fortune 100 treasures pouch, he still had a chance to win. After all, even though he had lost most of his soul force, his physique hadn't decreased. Instead, he had become even stronger after being tempered by the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing, delicate apricot. Even though Dugu Bo didn't have an assault-type martial soul, and his physique was only considered average among titled Dolua, and he was also affected by the poison, he still had the physique of a titled Dolua. In all fairness, Dugu Bo was comparable to a 10,000-year soul beast just based on his physique. Furthermore, compared to a 10,000-year soul beast, Dugu Bo wasn't like a 10,000-year soul beast that couldn't move. He had rich fighting experience, and furthermore, he had enough soul force to use his 1st to 5th soul skills. Compared to a normal 10,000-year soul beast, he was undoubtedly much more dangerous. Dagobah also knew that as long as he killed this youth from the ancient race in front of him, not only would he be able to get out of this predicament, but he would also be able to obtain a huge amount of treasures and even techniques that could make up for his losses. As for the revenge of the ancient race, that was all for later. Right now, he was about to lose his life. How could he have the time to think about that? Countless thoughts flashed past his mind, but Dagobah wasn't idle. He gathered all the strength in his body and crazily tore apart the projection of the Blackstone Emperor snake that was restraining his body. Rip! Finally, the projection of the Blackstone Emperor snake couldn't take it anymore, as Dagobah's strength was comparable to that of a 10,000-year soul beast. It was torn into two and turned into faint rock particles that dissipated into the air. Old dog, how can I not tell that this is spatial equipment with such dense spatial undulations? You don't have a chance anymore. Die obediently and become my nourishment. As he shouted furiously, Wang Kai gathered all the soul power in his body again and attacked Dagobah. Emperor Shura's possession, Shura's emperor armor, Shura's dragon slayer spear, boundless blood spear, mountain river obliteration, 4 pillars of time. 2 black and 2 red soul rings flashed behind Wang Kai as Shura's scales quickly grew outside of Wang Kai's body and completely enveloped his body. At the same time, Shura's claws, Shura's scales, and Shura's thorns also protruded from various parts of Wang Kai's body. They transformed Wang Kai's body into the strongest fighting weapon. Following the transformation of his body, blood-colored murderous aura crazily gathered around Wang Kai's body. Soon after, the shadow of a set of extremely mighty blood-red armor appeared on the surface of Wang Kai's body and finally took shape. Around Shura's emperor armor, 3 blood-red shields floated in midair and slowly revolved around Wang Kai's body. They sparkled under the sunlight and looked extremely cool. At the same time that Shura's emperor armor appeared, a long spear with a 5-clawed golden dragon engraved on it and exuded boundless murderous aura also appeared in Wang Kai's right hand. With the long spear in hand, Wang Kai's right foot tapped the ground and his body turned into a red-black arrow as he charged towards Dagobah. Following Wang Kai's actions, the chaotic mountain river cauldron didn't remain idle. An illusion of the chaotic mountain river cauldron shot out from the mouth of the cauldron and flew high into the air. Following this, it carried the aura of the Nirvana mountains and rivers as it crazily smashed towards Dagobah's head. At the same time, 4 stone pillars engraved with countless complicated glowing runes appeared around Dagobah. A mysterious force enveloped him. Suddenly, Dagobah felt that time around him had started to freeze. In the outside world, Wang Kai's speed seemed to have increased by a notch. Time type soul skill. Dagobah's gaze froze. As someone who had his 8th soul skill, time freeze, Dagobah was extremely sensitive to the power of time. However, his soul power was greatly depleted and he could only unleash his 5th soul skill at most. He was unable to unleash it at all. However, he didn't expect a mere Soul King in front of him to be able to unleash a time-type soul skill. Die! In the blink of an eye, Wang Kai had already arrived beside Dagobah. His spear was like a dragon as a blood-red spear light pierced towards the unarmed Dagobah's face. Chapter 123. Jade Phosphorus, a Snake Emperor, possess. After all, Dagobah was a titled Daloa who had gone through hundreds of battles. Even though Wang Kai was attacking him with multiple soul skills, he didn't reveal any trace of panic on his face. With a thought, snake scales started to grow out of Dagobah's body. A long snake tail also grew out of his back. Snake Python, Big Dipper Shield. At the same time, Dagobah gathered the soul power in his body. A 5th black soul ring flashed behind him. In the next moment, streaks of soul power gathered in front of Dagobah. They formed a green shield with countless pythons carved on it. While he was using his soul skills, Dagobah's hands weren't idle. Aiming at the chaotic mountain and river cauldron that was descending from the sky, Dagobah swung his arms and punched out crazily. Following the sound of metal clashing, Shura's Dragon Slayer spear and the snake python Big Dipper shield clashed in midair. A huge hole was punched in the snake python Big Dipper shield. However, Shura's Dragon Slayer spear was also exhausted. At this moment, Dugabo's fist also slammed into the chaotic mountain and river cauldron that was descending from the sky. Dong! Following a dull sound, the chaotic mountain and river cauldron was sent flying by Dugabo's punch. However, the huge impact also caused the scales on Dugabo's fist to cave in slightly. As he pulled Shura's Dragon Slayer, the spear out of the snake python Big Dipper shield, Wong Kai sighed in his heart. What strong defensive abilities! Even the previous 10,000-year arachnid was severely injured after being hit by Wong Kai's mountain and river obliteration. However, Dugabo could actually use his physical body to take on the chaotic mountain and river cauldron head-on. He didn't seem to be injured at all. No wonder he was a titled Doloa who stood at the top of the Doluwa continent. Little bastard, do you know how strong I am now? If you surrender now and hand over your inheritance and treasures, I can still give you a quick death. Otherwise, when I catch you, I'll skin you alive and pull out your bones. I'll make you beg for death. Dugabo's voice was filled with anger as he stared coldly at Wong Kai. Humph, keep your lust to yourself. Suppress it for me. Hearing Dugabo's words, Wong Kai roared angrily in a low voice and gathered all the soul force in his body again. Limitless Blood Spear, Shura's Sky Splitting Strike, Shura's Blood Claw, Mountain and River Obliteration, Xianhuang Qi, Suppression. 2 black and 2 red soul rings flashed behind him. He was multitasking. 4 soul skills formed a torrent of energy that carried an unstoppable force as they attacked Dugabo in the distance. At the same time, Wong Kai waved his spear again and stabbed towards Dugabo's face with the force of his first spear. Petty tricks. Break from me. There was a look of disdain in his eyes. Dugabo punched forward wildly and knocked away all the powerful soul skills. As a price, Dugabo's scales were only damaged and bleeding, and his arm was a little numb. These eyesores disappear for this old man. After shouting coldly, Dugabo aimed at the 4 pillars of fleeting time around him and punched several times. Bang, 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 bang. Following 4 crisp sounds, the 4 sturdy 4 pillars of fleeting time were destroyed by Dugabo. The time field that restrained Dugabo also disappeared instantly. Little bastard, eat my move too. Jade Phosphorus Bewildering Array. Dugabo shouted coldly, and the 3rd purple soul ring flashed behind him. In the next moment, a thick jade-green poisonous fog appeared around Wong Kai and completely enveloped Wong Kai's body. Although the poisonous fog's toxicity wasn't strong, it made Wong Kai feel slightly dizzy. After that, Dugabo stomped his feet on the ground and charged towards Wong Kai like a cannonball. Seeing how easily Dugabo neutralized his attack, Wong Kai was a little anxious. Oh no, I've kicked an iron plate. He didn't expect Dugabo's strength to be so terrifying even though he had lost most of his soul power. However, since things had already come to this, Wong Kai had no other choice but to fight. Eat my fist. When he reached Wong Kai's side, Dugabo's eyes widened in anger as he threw out several punches in a frenzy. Facing this little bastard who dared to cripple his cultivation, Dugabo's heart was filled with hatred. Therefore, he used 120% of his strength in every punch. Good timing. Although he knew that his strength wasn't as good as Dugabo's, Wong Kai was completely locked on at this moment, and it was difficult for him to escape from Dugabo's punches. He didn't even have the chance to use Shura's instant hell shadow stab, and could only use his fist to meet the attack. Bang, 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 bang. Following 7 muffled sounds, Wong Kai's body flew far away, and the bones in his arms were broken into several pieces. Damn, how is this Dugabo so strong? Wong Kai cursed to himself as he circulated the energy of the earth and his body of yin and yang to heal his injuries. Little bastard, I may have dropped to the level of a soul exalt, but it's more than enough to defeat you. Die for me. Since you're not afraid of my poison, then I'll use my physical strength to beat you up." Before Wang Kai could even land on the ground, Dugabo was already beside Wang Kai and threw a few punches at Wang Kai's chest. Bang! 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 Before Wang Kai's body could recover, Dugabo's punches had already landed on Wang Kai's chest and sent Wang Kai flying like a sack. Even though he was protected by Shura's scale and Shura's monarch armor, Wang Kai's internal organs were almost completely destroyed by Dugabo's punches. Wang Kai spat out a mouthful of blood in midair, dripping onto the azure scales in front of him. His vision darkened, and he nearly fainted. Could it be that I'm going to die here? No, I can't. Dong dong. Dong dong. Dong dong. Under Wang Kai's strong willpower, his heartbeat suddenly sped up and became heavy, along with Wang Kai's pulse. Endless azure, murderous aura gushed out of his heart like a tidal wave, crazily surging to every part of his body. At the same time, Wang Kai's vision was covered in a bloody mist, and his consciousness began to blur. Shura's transformation. 1 year after the battle with the purple-eyed armored bear, Wang Kai was finally forced to use his strongest form again. With the arrival of Shura's transformation, Wang Kai's recovery ability, strength, and battle awareness increased exponentially. The injuries on his arms and internal organs began to heal rapidly. Die, you old dog. Shura's sky-splitting claw. A muffled voice came out of Wang Kai's mouth. He moved both his claws and viciously grabbed Dugubo's head. Chapter 124. Has he lost his mind? He's seeking his own death. Dugubo laughed coldly as he watched Wang Kai charge towards him. His fist opened into a palm as he viciously punched forward. After exchanging a few blows with Wang Kai, Dugubo had already discovered that Wang Kai's strength and agility were no match for him. Although his soul rings were extremely powerful, he wasn't a match for him in close combat. Dugubo couldn't help but secretly rejoice when he saw that Wang Kai wasn't trying to pull away from him, but was instead trying to fight him in close combat. Dong! 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 In the blink of an eye, Wang Kai and Dugubo had exchanged a few blows in the air. What strength! How is this possible? He was clearly being completely suppressed by me earlier. After pushing Wang Kai back 3 steps with a single palm strike, Dugubo felt a slight numbness in his arm at this moment. He was secretly astonished. After suffering such a heavy blow to his organs, this Soul King, Brad should have lost most of his fighting strength, even if he wasn't seriously injured. But now his strength had increased greatly. What was going on? Old dog, break for me. Shura's heaven-splitting claw, second style. A slightly hoarse and distorted voice reverberated through the empty valley. Wang Kai quickly stabilized his body, and under Shura's command, his body transformed into a bloody arrow as he shot towards Dugubo. At the same time, he viciously clawed at Dugubo's back. "Oomph, little bastard, don't struggle in your deathbed. Suppress him for me." Faced with Wang Kai's attack, Dugubo frowned slightly and immediately met it with a palm strike. Bang! This time, Wang Kai was pushed back 2 steps, creating 2 shallow craters in the ground. Only then did he manage to dissipate the impact and stabilize himself. Yes, Dugubo was ultimately a titled Doloa, while Wang Kai was only a Soul King. Even if he transformed into Shura, Dugubo's strength and fighting instincts were definitely not inferior to Wang Kai's. Again, Shura's heaven-splitting claw, third style. Although Wang Kai's internal organs were slightly shaken by the impact of Dugubo's 2 palms, and he felt a slight sweetness in his throat, under Shura's control, Wang Kai didn't seem to feel any pain. Once again, he stood up and charged towards Dugubo crazily. Yes, Shura was a living being who had dominated countless worlds. How could he stop because of some pain? Although he didn't have the terrifying life force of Shura's blood rebirth, Wang Kai's recovery speed was still very frightening under the effects of the power of the earth, his yin-yang body, and Emperor Shura's martial soul. How could a small injury like this cause Wang Kai to stagnate? Bang! He attacked again. This time, Wang Kai wasn't pushed back by Dugubo. Furthermore, as the battle with Dugubo progressed, Wang Kai's emotions and willpower were getting stronger and stronger. His heart was also beating faster and faster. How is this possible? He's even stronger than before. This time, the slight contempt and disdain in Dugubo's eyes were no longer calm. However, now wasn't the time to be shocked. As a titled Delois who had experienced hundreds of battles, Dugubo understood that he had fallen into Wang Kai's rhythm. If he didn't break the stalemate, he would only continue to be suppressed. Jade phosphorus snake venom. His first soul ring flashed behind him, and a ball of dense green venom shot towards Wang Kai's exposed eyes. At the same time, Dugubo's body shook, and he took the initiative to attack. He punched wildly towards Wang Kai's head. "Old dog, your venom is useless against me." With a sweep of his claws, the jade-green jade phosphorus snake venom was blown apart by Wang Kai's punch. The jade-green venom exploded in the air and splashed onto Shura's scales on Wang Kai's body. Before it came into contact with his body, the flames of Shura on the surface of Wang Kai's body had already burned away most of the venom. Although the remaining venom landed on Shura's scales, it only emitted a weak, sizzling sound of corrosion. It couldn't even penetrate Shura's scales. Yes, after transforming into Shura, Wang Kai's poison resistance had increased by more than several times compared to when he was possessed by Emperor Shura. While blowing up the venom, Wang Kai didn't stay idle. He clenched his claws into a fist and met Dugubo's fist. Accompanied by several dull sounds of impact, Wang Kai took half a step back this time, and his internal organs were slightly shaken. "Little bastard, take another punch from me." Dugubo's lips curled into a sinister grin as he took another step forward. His eyes flashed with an ominous glint as he aimed a heavy punch at Wang Kai's head. Shura's heaven-splitting claw, 4th style. Compared to Dugubo's previous attack, Wang Kai was completely prepared this time, crazily condensing Shura's murderous aura and soul power. Wang Kai swung his claws and met Dugubo's attack head-on. This time, it was Dugubo who took half a step back. How was this possible? How can my strength be inferior to a soul king brat? Dugubo's eyes flashed with disbelief as he roared crazily. In terms of absolute strength, Wang Kai was indeed inferior to the current Dugubo. However, after entering Shura's state, relying on Shura's instincts, Wang Kai could control every single muscle in his body and display 120% of his strength. At the same time, different from Dugubo's fighting style, Wang Kai's Shura's heaven-splitting claw was derived from the infinite martial soul system's primary system intelligence. Xiao Guang had absorbed the essence of the martial soul hall's experts for thousands of years and deduced the most suitable technique for Wang Kai with its supercomputing power. Although the consumption was huge, its power was also unparalleled. With the assistance of these two, Wang Kai defeated Dugubo despite being the weaker party. He finally suppressed Dugubo. "Old dog, your good days are over. Die for me." Shura's heaven-splitting claw, 5th style. Desperately accumulating his strength, Wang Kai once again dashed in front of Dugubo. Then he slashed down with his claw with a terrifying might. "Open for me." With a trace of fear in his eyes, Dugubo could only use all his strength to meet Wang Kai's Shura's heaven-splitting claw. Accompanied by a muffled sound, Dugubo was forced back half a step and his body was somewhat unstable. But before he could stabilize himself, Wang Kai was already in front of him again, forcing him to gather his remaining strength to block. 1 step, 2 steps, 2.5 steps. As the battle progressed, Wang Kai's heartbeat became faster and faster. The Shura's power in his veins became more and more majestic, and the strength in his body became stronger and stronger. On the contrary, although he had consumed the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot, and had the medicinal effects of these 2 herbs continuously replenishing his strength, Dugubo was already 78 years old. Old age did not make use of his muscles and bones. Although his strength had not weakened, Dugubo was already feeling a little tired. The number of steps he retreated increased, and he had completely fallen into Wang Kai's rhythm. He was completely suppressed by Wang Kai. Chapter 125. Claw after claw. Under Wang Kai's ferocious attacks, Bo didn't even have a chance to catch his breath. In less than a few minutes, the snake scales on Bo's body had already been scratched by Wang Kai, leaving bloody wounds so deep that flesh could be seen. Bo's position had also been forced back to the edge of the valley. "Old dog, go to hell for me." Shura's heaven-splitting claw, 8th style. Shura's soul power and Shura's power were rapidly accumulating in his body. Suddenly, a terrifying blood-red projection of Shura that was 10 meters tall quickly appeared behind Wang Kai. It exuded a boundless, mysterious, and terrifying aura. As he waved his claw, the projection of Shura behind Wang Kai also attacked together with Wang Kai. A demonic claw that was as large as the heavens sliced through space and viciously clawed at Bo's face. How is this possible? Bo's body trembled slightly. There was a look of disbelief in his eyes. Faced with Wang Kai's attack, he actually felt an instinctive sense of fear that he couldn't overcome. Snake Python, Big Dipper Shield. Snake Python, Big Dipper Shield. Although he had lost control of his body, Bo was still a titled Delaw who had experienced hundreds of battles. He tried his best to gather all the soul power in his body. The soul rings behind him also quickly flashed twice. In the next moment, 2 green shields with countless pythons engraved on them appeared in front of Bo. At the same time, he crossed his arms and got into a defensive position. Rip, rip, accompanied by 2 crisp sounds. The 2 snake python Big Dipper shield protecting Bo didn't even resist for half a second. They were instantly torn apart by Shura's sharp claws. With terrifying strength, Shura's heaven-splitting claw continued to traverse space and tore at Bo's arm. In the next moment, Wang Kai Shura's claws had already firmly grabbed Bo's right arm. After that, he twisted and pulled it fiercely. Creak! The sound of muscles twisting and turning could be heard. Bo's right arm was twisted off by Wang Kai. After that, he threw it heavily onto the ground. Ah! An extremely shrill scream echoed in the quiet valley. Bo's face was pale, and his eyes were filled with fear. Bo clutched the wound on his right arm with his left hand, trying his best to stop the bleeding. However, under the corrosion of the Azura's baleful aura, how could Bo's regenerative ability be of any use? Fresh blood gushed out from the wound on Bo's arm like a fountain. "Old dog, this day next year will be your death's anniversary. Take this Shura's heaven-splitting claw, 8th style." Wang Kai took another step forward. Once again, he gathered his soul power. The mighty martial soul of Emperor Shura slowly appeared behind him. "Young hero, please spare my life. I was wrong. I beg you, please don't kill me. If you let me go, I'm willing to do anything for you. Furthermore, if you need it, I can even give my granddaughter to you. I only beg you to spare my worthless life." Faced with the threat of death, Bo could no longer maintain his high and mighty attitude. His tone instantly became extremely humble and pitiful. Bo's body trembled crazily. In the face of death, he became extremely fearful and humble. He didn't have the backbone and dignity that a titled Doloa should have. However, Wang Kai naturally wouldn't be moved by Bo's begging. He was observant, and naturally couldn't miss the deep hatred hidden under Bo's fearful eyes. You have to dig up the roots to cut the weeds. Old dog, you don't have a chance anymore." Wang Kai wasn't moved at all. He took a step forward and viciously clawed at Bo's chest. The blood-red claw cut through space and gradually grew bigger and bigger in front of Bo's despairing eyes. Following the sound of flesh tearing, Wang Kai's sharp claws pierced through Bo's chest. "No, young hero, please spare my life." Bo's voice started to tremble after receiving such a heavy injury. However, Wang Kai's movements didn't stop because of Bo's pleas. Instead, he swung his hand around Bo's chest and grabbed onto Bo's beating, warm heart. "Old dog, I'll let you die with a clear understanding today. The person who killed you is the holy son of the martial spirit hall, Wang Kai. Wang Kai shouted coldly as he clenched his right hand. Dugabo's heart was crushed by Wang Kai, and a dull sound like a balloon leaking air could be heard. Wang Kai pulled his right hand back and shook off the flesh and organs that were still in his claws. Without support, Dugabo's body slowly fell back and landed heavily on the ground. Fresh blood flowed out from his right arm and the wound on his chest, and instantly dyed the grass below him red. Although his heart was crushed, Dugabo didn't die immediately. The strong vitality that came from the physique of a titled Delua was still hanging on to his last breath. Dugabo's mouth twitched slightly, and he seemed to want to say something. However, the blood that flowed back from his chest had already flowed into his mouth, and he could only cough up blood. "Old dog, I won't send you off." Wang couldn't give Dugabo any chance to struggle at death's door. He took a big step forward, and a spiked Shura's foot aimed at Dugabo's head and stomped down hard. If he was at his peak, Dugabo might have been able to survive such an attack by relying on his soul skills and his blood energy. However, he was already at the end of his rope. Like a watermelon that fell from a high place, Dugabo's head was crushed under Wang Kai's foot. Fresh red blood and white brain matter mixed together, and it was especially tragic and bleak. A titled Doloa of his generation, Dugabo, had died here. Ding! You have killed titled Dugabo. You have obtained 20,000 source experience and 200 source points. Ding! You have defeated a strong enemy with a higher cultivation realm than you. You have obtained double the reward, 20,000 source experience and 400 source points. Ding! You have 93,500 source experience left. You have used 60,000 source experience to reach rank 57. You have 33,500 source experience left. This is great. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai couldn't help but reveal a bright smile. As the battle ended, the blood-red color in Wang Kai's eyes gradually disappeared, and his heart rate gradually returned to normal. The majestic Shura's power disappeared, and a sense of weakness enveloped Wang Kai. This was the after-effect of Shura's transformation. However, as Wang Kai advanced, a warm current flowed out from his body, strengthening his body and healing his injuries. At the same time, Wang Kai's yin-yang body and earth strength were working at their maximum capacity, and he didn't faint. After resting for 10 minutes, Wang Kai finally recovered his basic strength and stood up. Now, it was time to tidy up the spoils of this battle. Chapter 126. Xiao Guang. Can you estimate how much life force I lost because of Shura's transformation? Wang Kai asked in his heart as he slowly stood up. Master, according to my estimations, Shura's transformation has cost you around 2 years of life. However, you consumed the singular velvet sky chrysanthemum and the narcissus jade musclebone, both of which are heaven tier 9 medicinal herbs. After condensing your yin-yang body, your life force and lifespan have been greatly increased. If we consider them together, not only did your lifespan not decrease, it even increased by 3 years. Xiao Guang's cold voice immediately rang out in Wang Kai's mind. Because of Shura's transformation, I lost 2 years of my lifespan. Compared to the rewards this time, it's not too bad. Wang Kai nodded and began to count the rewards from this battle. The first reward from killing Dugabo this time was the 60,000 experience and 600 origin points as a reward for killing Dugabo. That's right, a total of 60,000 source experience and 600 source points. Although Dugabo's soul power and cultivation had been crippled, the system was still very generous and gave Wang Kai the full reward according to his highest rank, titled Doloa. Other than the basic reward for the kill, Wang Kai also received an additional reward for killing someone above his rank, double the amount of source experience and source point from the basic kill. According to the system's rules for obtaining experience and points, Wang Kai wouldn't receive any rewards if he killed a Soul Emperor 1 rank above him. However, if Wang Kai killed a Soul Sage 2 ranks above him, he would receive an additional 50% of the basic source experience and points for killing someone above his rank. If Wang Kai could kill a Soul Dalois 3 ranks above him, this reward would be increased to 100% of the basic reward. Wang Kai had managed to kill a titled Dalois who was 4 ranks above him. Even though he had used some tricks, the system still gave Wang Kai an extremely generous reward that was twice the basic reward. With so much source experience, Wang Kai successfully broke through the rank 56 bottleneck and became a rank 57 Soul King. If he wanted to rely on cultivation to obtain so much source experience, Wang Kai would have to spend at least half a year or even longer. Even if he still had the remnants of the 2 immortal herbs in his body that hadn't been refined, if he wanted to rely on cultivation to obtain 60,000 source experience, Wang Kai would definitely need no less than 3 months. It could be said that the 60,000 experience points he'd just received had given Wang Kai a great deal of confidence in becoming a Soul Emperor and completing the system's mission. There was still 1 year and 5 months before the end of the mission. What Wang Kai needed to do was to complete the last 3 levels of breakthrough within this period of time. Apart from the source experience, the 600 source points were an even more valuable reward. Compared to normal points, source points could be used to exchange for rarer and higher-tier treasures in the system's store. Although Wang Kai hadn't unlocked the authority to exchange for higher-tiered items, it was obvious that source points were much more valuable than normal points. If he wanted to exchange common points for 600 source points, Wang Kai would have to spend a total of 12 million common points, considering the conversion ratio of 20,000 to 1. The second reward from killing Dugu Bo was the pill that Dugu Bo had left behind. This was because Dugu Bo's cultivation and soul power had been completely dispersed by the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot. Therefore, even though there was still a certain amount of unrefined ice and fire medicinal power in his body, the value of Dugu Bo's corpse was much lower than the value of a titled Dolois' corpse. However, even though the cultivation in his body had been dispersed, the power in the pill that Dugu Bo had given Wang Kai hadn't been dispersed. Furthermore, as a treasure that Dugu Bo had nurtured for his entire life, this pill contained at least 50% of Dugu Bo's cultivation. And these skills have been preserved very well by a freak combination of factors. Not only that, but compared to the power in Dugu Bo's body, the power in this pill was undoubtedly pure and gentler. Just like what Dugu Bo had said when he was alive, his pill was a treasure that could increase a soul master's cultivation speed. Its quality wasn't inferior to a 9th grade heaven rank treasure. It was very precious. As he thought about this pill, Wang Kai was even more grateful that he had a small plane. It was with the help of the small plane that Wang Kai was able to successfully retrieve Dugu Bo's pill. Otherwise, even if he had successfully dispersed the power in Dugu Bo's body, once Dugu Bo had retrieved this pill, he would have immediately recovered half of his strength. Half of a titled Dolois' strength. If Dugu Bo had really retrieved this pill, even if his strength didn't immediately recover to the level of a titled Dolois, he would definitely be able to reach the peak of a Soul Dolois. If he were to face such a powerful soul master, even if he transformed in Ashura, Wang Kai would definitely be easily killed. The third reward from killing Dugu Bo this time was the soul bones he had left behind. As a titled Dolois, Dugu Bo had dropped a total of 3 soul bones after his death. The most precious of these 3 soul bones was undoubtedly the skull of the 10,000-year-old snake Empress Medusa. As for the other 2 soul bones, they weren't even 10,000 years old. The better one came from an 8,000-year-old soul beast, while the worse one came from a 3,000-year-old soul beast. To Wang Kai, a soul bone was just an ordinary item that could be exchanged in the system store. A 1,000-year-old soul bone only cost a few 100,000 or a few 100,000 points, while a 10,000-year-old soul bone wouldn't be sold for more than 5 million points. There were also magical system items that could increase the cultivation of soul bones that could be exchanged. Furthermore, Wang Kai definitely didn't want to equip an ordinary 10,000-year-old soul bone. He wanted to equip it with the soul bone of a 100,000-year-old or even a million-year-old soul beast. However, it was very clear that his situation was different from Wang Kai's. on the Dolua continent, every soul bone was still an extremely precious treasure. A 1,000-year-old soul bone could become a soul sage's trump card. As for a 10,000-year-old soul bone, even a titled Dolua could fight over it. Therefore, although Wang Kai wasn't prepared to use these 2 soul bones himself, these 3 soul bones were still a great reward. After all, even if Wang Kai didn't use them himself, these soul bones could be used by his subordinates in the future. As a conqueror, Wang Kai couldn't conquer the world by himself. He definitely had to have his own confidants and subordinates. These soul bones could be used by Wang Kai to reward his subordinates in the future and win their hearts over. Chapter 127. The 4th reward from killing Dugubo was the auspicious treasures pouch that Dugubo had left behind, as well as the vast amount of treasures that Dugubo had collected in the pouch. Spatial soul tools like the auspicious treasures pouch that could contain living things were naturally more valuable than normal spatial soul tools. A spatial soul tool that was 10 cubic meters in size only cost 100,000 points, while a spatial soul tool that could contain living things in the same volume would cost at least 1,000,000 points in the system's merchant shop. It was 10 times more expensive. Dugubo's soul tool was close to 30 cubic meters in size. In other words, it was worth around 3,000,000 points. However, the auspicious treasures pouch itself was even more valuable than the various treasures in it. These treasures were the essence of a titled Dolua's lifetime of accumulation. After opening the auspicious treasures pouch, a satisfied smile appeared on Wang Kai's face. Inside the Scepter Hunter treasures pouch, there were a large number of incomparably precious treasures. There were all sorts of rare heavenly materials and medicinal herbs that originated from the corpses of soul beasts. There were even some supplementary materials that Wang Kai needed to refine pills. Although these natural treasures were precious, they weren't the most valuable treasures in the auspicious treasures pouch. In the center of the auspicious treasures pouch, there were several soul tools that exuded dangerous auras. These soul tools were all extremely lethal weapons that Dugubo, who was a titled Dolua, had used his Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor's poison to forge when he was at his peak. If these soul tools were activated by Dugubo himself, they could even unleash a strength that could threaten a titled Dolua. They were Dugubo's trump cards. Even if Wang Kai were to use them, the poison that these soul tools exuded would definitely be able to threaten a soul sage, or even a soul Dolua. After sorting out the treasures in the auspicious treasures pouch, Wang Kai came to the 5th reward from killing Dugubo. It was the corpse that Dugubo had left behind after he died. Although Dugubo's powers had been neutralized by the star anise mysterious ice grass and the blazing delicate apricot, and the quality of his corpse was far inferior to that of an ordinary titled Dolua's corpse, it was still a titled Dolua's corpse. It was very valuable, whether it was to attract powerful soul beasts in the future or to nurture some special natural treasures. The flesh of a titled Dolua was one of the best choices. In addition, even though Dugubo had refined most of the medicinal effects from the star anise mysterious ice grass and the delicate flaming apricot flower, there was still at least 10 to 20% of the medicinal effects left in Dugubo's blood. Therefore, whether it was to refine Dugubo's blood as the main ingredient for refining blood pills, or use it to water the natural treasures in the small plain to help them grow, both were very good choices. Wang Kai thought of something and kept Dugubo's corpse in the small plain. After this, Wang Kai took out a jade shovel and scooped up the soil around Dugubo's corpse, which was stained with his blood, and kept it in a jade box. After returning to the small plain with the jade box, Wang Kai suddenly felt something calling out to him. After sensing it carefully, he realized that this call came from where he had buried Arachnid's egg. What is this fellow trying to do now? With a trace of curiosity, Wang Kai went to where he had buried the Arachnid's egg. He dug up the soil that covered the surface of the spider egg and carefully carried the Arachnid's egg out. After 2 days of incubation, the Arachnid's egg had actually increased in size by 50%. The shape of the runes on the surface of the egg had also changed a lot, and its life force had doubled. Looking through the transparent part of the spider egg, Wang Kai could actually faintly see the figure of a graceful young girl inside. Interesting. Looking at the newly born life inside the spider egg, Wang Kai was rather surprised. As expected of an existence that could withstand Shura's killing intent. The life inside the arachnid's egg was indeed a very special existence. I want it. As soon as Wang Kai's hands touched the outer shell of the spider egg, an intimate and dependent consciousness was transmitted from the egg. At the same time, a soft and slightly non-standard child's voice sounded in Wang Kai's sea of consciousness. "You're hungry again?" From the hazy sound transmission of a life inside the spider egg, Wang Kai more or less understood her meaning. His soul force trembled, and a strand of Shura's killing intent appeared at Wang Kai's fingertips. "You don't want this?" Just as his fingertips touched the outer shell of the spider egg, a faint wave of resistance was transmitted from the egg. Wang Kai silently withdrew his hand and immediately understood something. "You want this, right?" Twisting off the Dugubo's right arm, Wang Kai placed it in front of the spider egg. As expected, the consciousness transmitted from the egg immediately became excited. "So it's this." Wang Kai nodded in understanding. He took out Dugubo's blood and drizzled it on the spider egg. Immediately, the runes on the surface of the spider egg's surface became brighter. After feeding the life inside the arachnid's egg, Wang Kai carried it to the pit from before. With a slight movement of his jade shovel, he expanded the size of the pit. Then he took out the dirt soaked in Dugubo's blood and placed it in the pit. After that, he buried the spider egg again and allowed it to continue hatching. After doing all this, Wang Kai left the small plain once more. Now, it was time to obtain the final harvest from killing Dugubo, the unpicked natural treasures near the ice fire Yin-Yang well. Even though Wang Kai had already collected all of the natural treasures below the 8th grade of the heaven rank, he didn't have enough time to collect the natural treasures below the 7th grade of the heaven rank. Now that Dugubo had been killed, the natural treasures near the ice fire Yin-Yang well had naturally been collected by Wang Kai one by one and stored in the small plain. Every natural treasure had its own value. Since he had the conditions, Wang Kai clearly wasn't going to leave a single one behind. He swept away all of the natural treasures near the ice fire Yin-Yang well. As for destroying the ice fire Yin-Yang well, Wang Kai had once considered doing so. However, if he really did that, it was very likely that he would suffer a backlash from the world's will. On top of that, if he destroyed this eye of the world, which gathered vast amounts of energy, the Doluwa continent's energy level could even plummet. This naturally wasn't a good choice for Wang Kai, who wanted to conquer the Doluwa continent. As such, he ultimately dismissed this idea. After collecting all of the natural treasures, it was already noon. After walking to the edge of the valley, Wang Kai took one last glance at the empty ice fire Yin-Yang well, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. If Tang Xin still had the chance to discover this place, his expression would definitely be very interesting. Without any hesitation, Wang Kai strode up the mountain peak and rushed back in the direction of the Spear Hall. Chapter 128. Dawn of the second day, Wang Kai secretly returned to the Green Xian Hall and put the substitute puppet back into the small plain. He finally heaved a long sigh of relief. After 3 days, the mission to the ice fire Yin-Yang well had finally come to an end. It was a great success. In these 3 days, Wang Kai had not only obtained a huge amount of natural treasures, but it also formed an Yin-Yang body and increased his soul power by 2 ranks. He had even killed half of Tang San's mentor and future lackey, Dugubo, who was also one of the future elders of the Tang sect. Not only that, Wang Kai's mission had been flawless. Sendoryu had not come to find Wang Kai in these few days, and Chihiro Snow had not discovered anything strange about Wang Kai. It could be said that this beginner puppet had perfectly completed its mission. It had not let down Wang Kai's loss of soul power. Morning. Good morning, big brother Wang Kai. Chihiro Snow's gentle and beautiful voice rang out in Wang Kai's ears the moment he opened his eyes. When he heard Chihiro Snow's voice, Wang Kai revealed a bright smile on his face. Good morning, Schwerer. You're so early. He bent over slightly and kissed Chihiro Snow's forehead. Chihiro Snow smiled sweetly and blushed. Then, Wong Kai grabbed her soft and slender hand and said as they walked, "Come, I'll show you something nice." "Okay, big brother Wong Kai." Chihiro Snow nodded and obediently followed Wong Kai to the secret cultivation room. "Come take a look at this." After closing the door to the secret cultivation room, Wong Kai took out the yearning heartbroken red from the small plane and handed it to Chihiro Snow. "Brother Wong Kai, what's this?" Chihiro Snow frowned slightly as she took the red flower that was attached to the rock. Her watery eyes looked at Wong Kai in confusion. "This is the yearning heartbroken red, a very high-grade heavenly treasure." Gently stroking Chihiro Snow's hair, Wong Kai patiently explained, "Come, think of me in your heart, then spit a mouthful of blood onto the petals." "Are you thinking about Big Brother Wong Kai?" "All right, I understand." Although there were still some doubts in her heart, Chihiro Snow still had absolute trust in Wong Kai. She circulated the soul force in her body and stimulated her blood essence. Her cherry lips parted slightly, and she spat out a mouthful of blood onto the petals of the yearning heartbroken grass. The yearning heartbroken red didn't sway in the slightest, already quietly leaving the black abyssal stone, falling down, floating into Chihiro Snow's palm. "Big brother Wong Kai, I've succeeded." With a smile on her face, Chihiro Snow held the yearning heartbroken red in front of Wong Kai and flaunted it as if she was asking for credit. "Congratulations, Shue-er." Seeing Chihiro Snow successfully pluck the yearning heartbroken red, Wong Kai's eyes also showed a trace of gratification. Yes, being able to pass the test and successfully pluck the yearning heartbroken red meant that Chihiro Snow only loved him in her heart. To have a peerless beauty who loved him so deeply, what was there for Wong Kai to be dissatisfied with? "Shue-er, since you plucked this yearning heartbroken red, it means that you and it are fated. Now, quickly consume and refine it. Consume the petals and the flower stem together. Then use your soul power to refine it to achieve the best effect." Looking at Chihiro Snow affectionately, Wong Kai continued to instruct. "And I got it, big brother Wong Kai." After saying that, Chihiro Snow sat cross-legged in the secret cultivation room and plucked the petals of the yearning heartbroken red one by one. She chewed gently, and an incomparably sweet juice lingered in her mouth. After consuming the petals, Chihiro Snow stuffed the stem of the yearning heartbroken red into her mouth, tasted it carefully, and swallowed it into her stomach. The yearning heartbroken red was completely consumed, and not long after, an extremely gentle soul power and blood chi rose from Chihiro Snow's abdomen and flowed into her tendons and meridians. Rank 38, rank 39. Time passed minute by minute, and the aura of Chihiro Snow's body continued to rise. Although she hadn't obtained her fourth soul ring, Chihiro Snow's soul power had already broken through to the soul ancestor realm, and it was still rising. Streaks of brilliant angelic holy light radiated from Chihiro Snow's body, making her appear exceptionally holy and beautiful, like a goddess who had descended to the mortal world. 5 hours passed. "It's so comfortable. I feel like my body has been completely reborn. Thank you for your gift, big brother Wong Kai." Chihiro Snow exclaimed in surprise as she opened her eyes and sensed the huge changes in her body. "It's nothing. It's the fortune of this herb to be fated with Shue-er, and to be consumed by Shue-er. Come, let me take a look." Wong Kai used his appraisal eye to see Chihiro Snow's true cultivation. He immediately said, "Yes, very good." After consuming this herb, Shue-er's soul power has already broken through to rank 40. Furthermore, once you obtain your fourth soul ring, Shue-er's soul power should be able to reach rank 47. Rank 47? Big brother Wong Kai, are you saying that consuming this herb has directly increased my soul power by 10 ranks? Chihiro Snow asked in disbelief. That's right. Your soul power has indeed increased by 10 ranks. Wong Kai nodded his head in confirmation as he sensed Chihiro Snow's soul power once more. Isn't this a little too fast? If I advance like this, it won't make my cultivation foundation unstable, right? Although her face revealed a happy expression, Qianren Xue still asked a question with some worry. Don't worry, Xue. What I gave you isn't an ordinary heaven and earth treasure. It's an extremely rare, immortal great herb that I obtained from the secret realm of angels. This yearning heartbroken red is a very good item for strengthening one's foundation. After consuming it, not only will it not shake your foundation, Xue, but it will also increase your talent and make your foundation even more solid. As you cultivate in the future, I think you'll be able to understand it, Xue. Wang Kai shook his head and answered truthfully. Then I'm relieved. After hearing Wang Kai's words, the trace of doubt in Chihiro Snow's eyes completely disappeared. However, she immediately said, Xue is really very happy to be able to close the gap between Big Brother Wang Kai and me. However, Xue still feels a little guilty. Big Brother Wang Kai gave such a precious heaven and earth treasure to Xue, just like that. Actually, Xue feels that Big Brother Wang Kai is the most suitable person to consume this yearning heartbroken red. Don't feel guilty, Xue. I just don't have fate with this yearning heartbroken red. Xue, you're the most suitable person to consume it. Gently rubbing Chihiro Snow's head, Wang Kai continued. Since you've consumed this heaven and earth treasure, I'll also have to explain your situation to Master when the time comes. I can't let him misunderstand. Come, let's go. As he spoke, Wang Kai pulled Chihiro Snow up again and walked toward the Sendoryu residence. Chapter 129. Not long after, Wang Kai pulled Chihiro Snow and walked into Sendoryu's residence. After meeting with Sendoryu, Wang Kai truthfully reported the fact that he and Chihiro Snow had consumed the immortal herb and their strength had greatly increased. After learning about the opportunity of Wang Kai and Chihiro Snow, Sendoryu did not have any doubts. According to his observation, Wang Kai and Chihiro Snow's foundation had not been damaged because of this. Instead, it had become even more solid. As for the fact that Wang Kai was able to gift such a treasure to Chihiro Snow, Sendoryu felt very gratified in his heart. It seemed that Chihiro Snow had done a good job. She had firmly grasped Wang Kai's heart. Even if Wang Kai had other women in the future, as Wang Kai's first love, Chihiro Snow would definitely be able to firmly tie Wang Kai to the chariot of the martial spirit palace. At the end of this meeting, Sendoryu also told Wang Kai a fact. 1 week later, he would bring Wang Kai to the Pope's palace to meet the current Pope of the martial spirit palace, who was also Chihiro Snow's mother and Wang Kai's mother-in-law, Bibi Dawn. Thinking of the woman he was going to meet, Wang Kai's feelings were rather complicated. On one hand, Wang Kai, who came from Earth, also felt quite sympathetic towards Bibidon's experience. From the perspective of an Earthling, Bibidon's childhood experience was undoubtedly a kind of progressive activity to pursue free love and resist arranged marriage. However, she was ruthlessly abandoned by Yu Xiaojiang because of this. She was also violated by her own master because of this. It was really a tragedy that made people sigh with pity. In addition to this pity, Wang Kai also praised Bibidon's indomitable spirit of resistance, as well as her powerful talent and strength. However, on the other hand, Bibi Dawn was indeed a nail in his way of controlling the martial spirit palace. After all, Bibi Dawn had won the approval of a large number of elders in the martial spirit palace with her strength and talent. If he couldn't eliminate Bibidon's influence, Wang Kai wouldn't be able to completely turn the martial spirit palace into his own force. However, the current Wang Kai definitely couldn't subdue Bibi Dawn. After all, although she hadn't completed the Rakshasa Gods test, she was at least a rank 97 pinnacle de law. She was far from someone Wang Kai could compare to. Therefore, what Wang Kai needed to do now was to leave a good impression on Bibi Dawn, pass her test, and inherit the position of the Holy Son of the Martial Spirit Palace. After giving instructions, Sendoryu brought Chihiro Snow to help her hunt for her fourth soul ring. At the same time, Wang Kai returned to the Green Xian Hall alone. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he was prepared to consume the autumn-piercing dew that he had picked in the ice-fire yin-yang well to improve his spiritual power, as he hadn't completely refined the medicinal power of the strange velvet sky, reaching chrysanthemum and the narcissus jade musclebone. Wang Kai didn't dare to rashly consume other heaven and earth treasures that could improve his qi and blood or soul power. However, unlike other heaven and earth treasures, this autumn-piercing dew was not only gentle, but it also didn't conflict with the two immortal-grade treasures that Wang Kai had consumed before. Therefore, Wang Kai was prepared to consume this immortal herb. With a thought, the substitute puppet appeared in the secret cultivation room, and Wang Kai turned around and entered the small plane. He came to the side of the dimensional furnace, picked the autumn-piercing dew, and held it in front of his mouth. Tilting it slightly, the few drops of crystal-clear liquid on the white flower in the middle of the autumn-piercing dew immediately fell into Wang Kai's mouth. When the few drops of liquid completely left the grass, the entire autumn-piercing dew had completely withered in Wang Kai's hand, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into dust and drifted away in his hand. When the jade dew entered his throat, suddenly, a cool green gas continuously surged into Wang Kai's sea of consciousness. Wang Kai also silently sat cross-legged, calm and composed, and refined the vigorous medicinal power in his sea of consciousness. Streams of spiritual power wrapped around the medicinal power in his sea of consciousness, and Wang Kai began to frantically refine it. With Wang Kai's refinement, streams of clear air were assimilated into invisible spiritual power. Time passed by minute, and the clear air was also transformed minute by minute. Wang Kai's spiritual power was also rapidly improving. About 10 minutes later, Wang Kai only heard a clear cracking sound in his sea of consciousness. With the sound, Wang Kai only felt that a layer of film that bound his sea of consciousness was completely broken, and his sea of consciousness began to slowly expand. In just 10 minutes, Wang Kai had successfully broken the bottleneck from 8 to 9 multitasking. However, the medicinal power of the autumn-piercing dew was only consumed about 10%. With the improvement of spiritual power, Wang Kai's speed of refining the medicinal power also became faster and faster. Streams of medicinal power were constantly assimilated, and Wang Kai's spiritual power was also rising rapidly. 10 multitasking, 11 multitasking, 14 multitasking. 3 hours later, the medicinal power in Wang Kai's sea of consciousness had been completely refined, and Wang Kai's spiritual power had also successfully broken through 6 bottlenecks, reaching the state of 14 multitasking. At this time, Wang Kai's spiritual power had also undergone a certain change. When Wang Kai's spiritual power broke through to 10 multitasking, the spiritual power in his sea of consciousness had already begun the process of liquefaction. When he finished refining the autumn-piercing dew and advanced to 14 multitasking, about 5% of Wang Kai's spiritual power in his sea of consciousness had completed the liquefaction, turning into a blue liquid with a trace of blood red. Spiritual power starting to liquefaction. This was a characteristic that only soul sages had, and Wang Kai was also quite satisfied with this. After breaking through the liquefaction of spiritual power, Wang Kai's observation ability and comprehension had improved greatly. At the same time, Xiao Guang's calculation ability had also been upgraded again. Master, with your current calculation ability, you can already deduce the complete 6th layer of the mysterious heaven suppressing technique. Do you want to deduce it? Right after Wang Kai finished refining, Xiao Guang's voice immediately rang out in his sea of consciousness. Of course. With a command, Wang Kai once again cleared his mind of distracting thoughts and immediately began to circulate the mysterious heaven suppressing technique. 2 hours later, the 64 layers of soul force tide surged through Wang Kai's meridians. A sea of soul force entered Wang Kai's body and was assimilated, and at the same time, the residual medicinal power of the singular velvet heaven connecting chrysanthemum and narcissus jade fleshbone were continuously refined by Wang Kai's cultivation. The 6th layer of the mysterious heaven suppressing technique had been completed, and under Wang Kai's control, the seventh soul force whirlpool began to form on Wang Kai's right leg. Not long after, the seventh soul force whirlpool was successfully formed, and Wang Kai's speed of absorbing soul force increased again, pushing the soul force tide towards the 55th cycle. After obtaining the 2 stalks of immortal herbs and condensing the yin-yang body, the 9th soul force tide of the 7th layer of the mysterious heaven-suppressing technique no longer pressured Wang Kai's constitution. With the advancement of the new 9th soul force tide, even more medicinal power was continuously converted into pure soul force. Cultivating the mysterious heaven-suppressing technique. Origin experience plus 350. Refining the residual medicinal power in your body. Origin experience plus 250. Following the notification, Wang Kai ended his cultivation, revealing a satisfied smile, and then returned to the Dolua continent. Right now, Chihiro Snow should also be returning from obtaining her soul ring, right? Chapter 130. A week later, in the Pontiff's Palace, the highest governing body of the Martial Soul Hall. This subordinate pays his respects to the head consecrator. The Pontiff has been waiting for a long time inside. After bringing Wang Kai to the front of the Pontiff's Palace, the several hundred Guardian Knights hurriedly knelt on one knee before Sendoryu. The leader of the Guardian Knights walked over to Sendoryu and reported respectfully. Wang Kai was rather astonished as he looked at these Protector Knights. Even though these Protector Knights were all around 40 years old, every single one of them was a soul king. The leader of these Protector Knights was even a soul sage. Generally speaking, if a soul king was willing to join the 2 empires, they would at least be able to obtain the title of Baron. However, they were willing to become mere Guardian Knights of the Pontiff's Palace. This was enough to show how charismatic BB Don was. Sendoryu nodded softly as he led Wang Kai into the Pontiff's Palace. After passing through several tall and luxurious corridors, Sendoryu led Wang Kai to the conference hall in the center of the Pontiff's Palace. As if sensing Sendoryu and Wang Kai's arrival, a gentle and dignified female voice sounded from within the hall. "Since the head consecrator and holy saint-in-waiting are here, please come in." Following this voice, 2 guards slowly pushed open the several-meter-tall arched door made of marble. As the door creaked open, a graceful figure immediately appeared in the depths of the hall. As he walked into the hall with Sendoryu, Wang Kai finally saw the full appearance of this legendary woman of the Dolua continent. She was around 175 meters tall, and Bibidon's figure was close to perfect. She wore a gorgeous black robe inlaid with golden patterns, and her soft, wine-red hair was draped over her shoulders under a 9-ringed purple gold crown. In her incomparably white and delicate hand, she held a magnificent scepter about 2 meters long, inlaid with countless gems. In addition to his perfect figure, BB Dong's skin was also extremely fair and tender, as if it could be broken by the wind. Although she was nearing 40 years old, time did not leave any traces on her body. Just like her skin, Bibidon's face was almost perfect, and it was filled with an extreme charm that seemed to be able to evoke the deepest desires of all male creatures. Lowering his head slightly, BB Don cast his gaze towards Wang Kai and asked indifferently, "Head consecrator, is this the chosen son that you and the elders are preparing to nominate? In other words, the spouse that you have chosen for Shuo Wang Kai? Greetings, your highness." Although BB Don was extremely beautiful, Wang Kai could feel an extreme sense of fear from Shura's instinctive feedback. As a pinnacle Dolua, any one of Bibidon's soul skills was enough to kill him. Therefore, Wang Kai had to show absolute respect to such a powerful individual before he had matured. "Good. You are indeed extraordinarily talented. You look dignified." BB Don nodded slightly and immediately asked, "In that case, Wang Kai, are you willing to accept the position of the Holy Son of the Martial Spirit Hall and become the representative of the Martial Spirit Hall and share the honor and disgrace of the Martial Spirit Hall?" "I am willing," Wang Kai replied in a deep voice. "Good. Since you are willing to accept the position of the Holy Son of the Martial Spirit Hall, and the head consecrator and the elders have all agreed, I naturally have no reason to object. In 2 weeks, I will personally crown you at the Holy Sun ceremony." Bibidon sighed faintly, and then said plainly, "Thank you, Your Highness." Wang Kai bowed slightly, and Sendoryu also said at this time, "Since His Holiness has no objection, then I have nothing to say. His Holiness is busy, so this old man will not disturb you any further." Then, without waiting for Bibidon's reply, Sendoryu turned around and pulled Wang Kai out of the pontiff's palace. After leaving the pontiff's palace, Wang Kai also began an urgent training on the etiquette and process of the Holy Sun ceremony. Although as a reserve Holy Sun, Wang Kai had also received basic etiquette training, this training was undoubtedly more detailed and specific. 2 weeks passed in the blink of an eye. After the urgent training, Wang Kai also had a complete understanding of the process and etiquette of the Holy Sun ceremony. Finally, the Holy Sun ceremony officially began this morning. Martial Spirit Holy City, Pontiff's Palace. After breakfast, Wang Kai went to the Pontiff's Palace early to begin his preparations. An hour later, the Holy Sun ceremony began as scheduled. After putting on the gorgeous clothes that had been designed, Wang Kai was led into the conference hall of the Pontiff Palace through the main entrance by 2 paladin commanders. The conference hall of the Martial Soul Hall wasn't as empty as it had been when Wang Kai and Sendoryu visited Bibidon alone. Instead, it was filled with the important figures of the Martial Soul Hall and the representatives of the various major powers who had come to observe the ceremony. Sitting in the center of the conference hall was naturally the current pontiff of the Martial Soul Hall, Bibidon. On both sides of her hands, there were rows of seats. The seats closest to Bibidon were the most spacious and luxurious. The owners of these seats were the titled Delaw of the Martial Soul Hall, the elders, and the Platinum Bishops. Apart from them, the representatives of the Heaven Doe Empire, the Star Luo Empire, the Seven Treasures Glaze Sect, the Clear Sky Sect, and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Sect were also seated here. The seats behind them were occupied by the Soul Delaw of the Martial Soul Hall, as well as the representatives of the 4 lower sects and the various great duchies. Compared to the seats of the titled Delaw and the representatives of the 3 higher sects of the 2 empires, these people's seats were undoubtedly a lot simpler. The distance between each other was also much closer. Behind them were the white-robed bishops who were soul sages, as well as the representatives of the smaller powers. However, they were no longer qualified to sit in the pontiff's palace. They could only stand and observe the ceremony. Most of the spectators weren't young. However, there were one or several youthful faces among the spectators from the major powers. According to Sendoryu, these youths would challenge Wang Kai during the Holy Disciple ceremony. This was one of the segments of the ceremony, and also a clash between the various major powers. Sendoryu's order to Wang Kai was that he could only win and not lose. As Wang Kai walked into the conference hall, the orchestras that had been prepared on both sides of the pontiff's palace began to play a solemn and grand symphony. Wang Kai also walked in front of Bibidon under the gazes of the powerful individuals from the Martial Soul Hall and the various spectating representatives. Chapter 131. Arriving in front of Bibidon, Wang Kai bowed. At this moment, the 2 red-robed bishops, standing on either side of Bibidon's seat, also walked up together. The Martial Soul Hall's Holy Disciple Coronation ceremony begins now. Now, on behalf of the Pope, we would like to extend our most sincere greetings to everyone participating in the ceremony. Using their soul power, the 2 red-robed bishops' voices were clearly transmitted into the ears of every spectator. Hearing the words of the 2 red-robed bishops, everyone started to clap. The first segment of the Martial Soul Hall's Holy Disciple Coronation Ceremony, His Holiness Bibidon, will read the Holy Disciple Coronation Edict. After the applause stopped, the 2 red-robed bishops used their soul power to shout again. Immediately after, they each took a few steps back and stood on either side of Bibidon again. At this moment, Bibidon also placed the scepter in his hand on the ground and stood up from his throne. Then, he took 2 steps forward and walked in front of Wang Kai. Member of the Martial Soul Hall, Wang Kai. Extremely talented and hardworking, he successfully became a Soul King at the age of 15. Now, At the age of 17, his cultivation has already reached rank 57. Furthermore, his behavior is friendly, and he is resourceful. He is deeply loved by the entire Martial Soul Hall. After the elders voted, they unanimously decided to confer Wang Kai as the next holy disciple of the Martial Soul Hall. Bibidan's voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly transmitted to the ears of every soul master in the conference hall. Following another round of enthusiastic applause, two MCs walked out from both sides and carried a tray covered in red cloth to Bibidan's side. Immediately after, they knelt on one knee and presented the tray. In the middle of the tray, there was an extremely gorgeous crown inlaid with gems. Wang Kai, today I officially confer you as the next holy disciple of the Martial Soul Hall. Holding the crown in his hands, he walked in front of Wang Kai and opened his mouth slightly. Immediately, a fragrant wind blew in his face, making him feel refreshed. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Wang Kai lowered his head slightly as he replied. "After becoming the Holy Son, you must not slack off on your cultivation. Instead, you must continue to work hard. You must know that a powerful cultivation is the foundation of a soul master's foothold." As he spoke, Bibidan placed the crown on Wang Kai's head and straightened it. "Thank you for your teachings, Your Majesty. If you want to wear the crown, you must bear its weight. This junior will definitely continue to cultivate diligently and will definitely not disappoint Your Highness and the elders' painstaking efforts." Upon hearing Wang Kai's reply, Bibidan also nodded slightly. Soon after, she faced the audience and took a few steps back before gracefully returning to her throne. For the second event of the Martial Spirit Palace's Holy Sun coronation ceremony, the Holy Sun will greet the elders and the distinguished guests from the two empires and the three high sects. Since the first event had ended, the two red-robed cardinals walked forward again and announced the second event of the Holy Sun coronation ceremony. After the announcement, Wang Kai also lifted his head and walked in front of the elders. He shook hands with them one by one, and all the elders smiled in return. They also gave Wang Kai a few words of encouragement and reminded him to continue to work hard on his cultivation. After greeting all the titled elders and worshippers of the Martial Spirit Palace, Wang Kai then walked in front of the distinguished guests from the Heaven Do Empire. "Duke Xuehui, thank you for coming to the Martial Spirit Palace to observe this ceremony." Wang Kai revealed a faint smile as he walked in front of a stout middle-aged man. After that, he extended his right hand. Xuehui was the cousin of the Heaven Do Empire's Snowy Night Emperor. He was a member of the imperial family and had been conferred the title of duke. Even though he wasn't very strong, he still relied on his status as a member of the royal family to obtain the title of the Heaven Do Empire's Foreign Affairs Chief. The fact that the Heaven Do Empire had sent him to participate in Wang Kai's coronation ceremony was enough to show how much importance the Heaven Do Empire placed on this matter. There was a young man with black hair and black eyes standing behind Xuehui. When he met Wang Kai's gaze, his eyes immediately flashed with fighting spirit. It seemed like he was the challenger sent by the Heaven Do Empire this time. "You're too kind, Your Highness Wang Kai. I hope that Your Highness Wang Kai can continue to lead the Martial Spirit Palace to guide the development of soul masters and maintain peace on the continent after you're crowned as the Pope in the future." Xuehui said softly as she smiled and shook Wang Kai's hand. Wang Kai smiled again, but he was also laughing in his heart. Peace. Very soon, the continent will no longer be as peaceful as it is now. Even though Chihiro Snow wasn't sent to the Heaven Do Empire because of Wang Kai's arrival, the Martial Spirit Palace was already prepared to make a move against the Heaven Do Empire. They had even planted many soul masters from the Martial Spirit Palace in the Heaven Do Empire's Royal Guard Legion. As long as the timing was right, they could assassinate the Heaven Do Empire's royal family at any time. Even if the Martial Spirit Palace didn't make a move against the Heaven Do Empire, as the conqueror, how could Wang Kai let go of the Heaven Do Empire, which was the weakest empire in the continent? Without a strong military force, there was no way to talk about peace. After shaking hands with Xuehui, Wang Kai came in front of the guest next to Xuehui. He was a middle-aged man, and his hair was slightly gray. However, his eyes were still spirited, and his expression was very calm. He didn't seem as nervous as Shui Hui when she faced Wang Kai. Ning Fengjun, a rank 64 soul emperor, was also an elder of the Seven Treasures Glazed sect who was in charge of external affairs. This time, the Seven Treasures Glazed sect had sent him to attend Wang Kai's holy disciple coronation ceremony, which was a show of respect to the martial spirit palace. Behind Ning Fengjun, there was a tall young man. He had an extremely sharp aura, and his gaze was like a sword. When he met this young man's gaze, Wang Kai almost immediately guessed that this challenger from the Seven Treasures Glazed sect had to be the disciple of the legendary titled Dalaw with the strongest offensive power, the sword Dalaw, Chun Xin. Elder Ning Fengjun, thank you very much for taking the time to attend the Martial Spirit Palace's ceremony. Wang Kai revealed a warm smile on his face as he politely extended his right hand. Compared to the fierce-looking Shui Hui, Wang Kai's attitude towards Ning Fengjun was undoubtedly much better. As an earthling, Wang Kai had always looked down on people who didn't have any talent and relied on their bloodline to get to where they were. Furthermore, Shui Hui was a member of the royal family. He enjoyed the best teachers and soul power resources, but he was only a rank 37 soul elder. He could be said to be a complete piece of trash. As a result, Wang Kai wouldn't ignore Shui Hui because of etiquette, but he wouldn't give him any respect that went beyond his bottom line. As for Ning Fengjun, who was temporarily stronger than him, Wang Kai naturally respected him. Your Highness Wang Kai is indeed a dignified person. Ning Fengjun shook Wang Kai's hand gently and said, Today, sect leader Ning Fengji sent me to attend the ceremony. On one hand, he wanted to send his blessings, and on the other hand, he wanted to invite your Highness Wang Kai to visit the Seven Treasures Glazed sect to strengthen our relationship. Your Highness Wang Kai, please do me the honor. Elder, you're too polite. Since you've invited me, it would be impolite of me to decline. After he finished speaking, Wang Kai continued to walk towards the guests beside Ning Fengjun. Chapter 132. This was a middle-aged man with slightly blue hair. He was well-built, and his eyes were like lightning. According to the information that Wang Kai had received, this middle-aged man was an elder of the Blue Lightning Tyrant sect, Yumengda. He was also a soul sage. Behind Yumengda stood a handsome blue-haired young man. He was also the challenger sent by the Blue Lightning Overlord sect this time. Elder Yumengda, thank you for coming to the Martial Soul Hall. Wang Kai smiled and extended his right hand politely. Wang Kai is indeed young and promising, Your Highness. When I was your age, I was only a soul elder. Yumengda smiled as he tightened his grip on Wang Kai's hand. You want to embarrass yourself in front of me? Dream on. Wang Kai laughed coldly in his heart as he tightened his grip on Yumengda's hand. What strength! Yumengda was shocked when he felt the strength from Hui Yuhao's hand. He naturally couldn't use his soul power against Wang Kai in public. However, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon was one of the strongest beast souls on the Dolawa continent. He believed that he could easily embarrass Wang Kai with his own strength. He didn't expect Wang Kai to be as strong as him. Elder Mingda, you're so friendly. Wang Kai smiled as he spoke to Yumengda. After hearing Wang Kai's words, Yumengda let go of Hui Yuhao's hand. He smiled awkwardly. It was already very embarrassing for him to bully someone younger than him. He didn't expect that he wouldn't get what he wanted. After leaving Yumengda, Wang Kai continued to walk towards the Clear Sky Sect's guests. After shaking hands with the Clear Sky Sect's guests, Wang Kai walked towards the Star Luo Empire's guests. This time, he had also received an invitation from the Star Luo Empire to take a look. Naturally, Wang Kai gladly agreed. After greeting all the elders and visiting VIPs, Wang Kai once again returned to the center of the hall. For the third event of the Martial Spirit Palace's Saint Coronation Ceremony, the major forces will present their gifts. First, I would like to invite the guest of the Heaven Do Empire, Duchess Shui Hui, to present her gift. After the two red-robed bishops finished speaking, Shui Hui stood up and took a step forward. She took out a gift list and read aloud. in order to celebrate His Highness Wang Kai's coronation as the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Hall. The Heavendo Empire is giving His Highness the title of Honorary Marquis, 1 million gold soul coins, 20 precious soul tools, and 50 precious medicinal herbs. We wish His Highness Wang Kai a smooth cultivation and an early entry into the Dolua Hall. After saying that, Shuehui put away the gift list and left. Thank you for your kind intentions, Your Majesty Shueyi. Wang Kai cupped his fists and thanked Shuehui. Let's invite the guest of the Clear Sky sect, Elder Tang Xing, to present his gift. After the two red-robed bishops finished speaking, Elder Tang Xing from the Clear Sky sect also stood up slowly. He took a step forward and said loudly, in order to celebrate His Highness Wang Kai's coronation as the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Hall, the Clear Sky sect is giving His Highness 10,000 forged fish scale armor, 20 precious medicinal herbs, and a supreme 9 dragons cauldron. We wish His Highness Wang Kai a smooth cultivation and an early entry into the Dolua Hall. One by one, the representatives stepped forward and reported the gifts that their respective forces had presented. After all the forces presented their gifts, the third event of the Holy Sun coronation ceremony also came to a successful conclusion. The fourth event of the Martial Soul Hall's Holy Sun coronation ceremony is to accept challenges from the younger generation of the major forces. Everyone, please move to the Great Soul Arena. The two red-robed bishops stepped forward again and announced the last event of the Holy Sun coronation ceremony. Half an hour later, in the Great Soul Arena of the Martial Soul Holy City, according to the different degrees of nobility, the people who participated in the ceremony were arranged to sit in the outer ring, inner ring, and core inner ring of the Great Soul Arena. At this time, Wang Kai had also taken off his formal attire and changed into a combat attire, standing on the side of the Great Soul Arena. I'm ready. Does anyone dare to fight with me? As soon as Wang Kai's voice fell, the young man with sword eyes behind the 7 treasures glazed sex, Elder Ning Fengjun, had already stood up and said in a deep voice, Wang Kai, I'll fight you. Luo Chun, the disciple of the 7 treasures glazed sex, sword Dolua, although he was only 22 years old, his cultivation was already a level 55 Soul King. Although he was 5 years older than Wang Kai, who was 17 years old, Luo Chun didn't have a cheat like Wang Kai after all. Therefore, it wasn't easy for him to achieve such high results at such a young age by relying on his talent. Okay, it's my pleasure. Seeing Luo Chun stand up, Wang Kai also nodded slightly and stood at the two ends of the Great Soul Arena with Luo Chun. Luo Chun, level 55 Battle Soul King, under the Sword of Martial Soul, Sword of Judgment. As he spoke, Luo Chun revealed the powerful aura of a Soul King, and yellow, purple, and black soul rings appear behind him. At the same time, he also crazily urged his soul power, and a silver-white, long sword engraved with strange patterns appeared in his hand. Not bad. To be able to become a Soul King at this age, this child has a chance of becoming a title Dolua in the future. Yes, the sword Dolua has a successor. Looking at Luo Chen's performance, the elders and bishops of the Martial Soul Hall in the audience nodded and praised, and Ning Fengjuan's face also showed a smug smile. Wang Kai, level 57 Battle Soul King, under the Angel de Martial Soul, Shura. After speaking, Wang Kai's mind moved. In the next moment, Emperor Shura's martial soul appeared behind him, revealing the powerful aura of a Soul King. In the next moment, Wang Kai urged his soul power, and Emperor Shura's martial soul merged with his body. Emperor Shura, possess. With Wang Kai's words, Emperor Shura's martial soul completely merged with Wang Kai's body. Shura's power appeared around Wang Kai's body, and black Shura scales engraved with mysterious patterns grew on the surface of Wang Kai's body. At the same time, Wang Kai's nails became thicker and longer, forming 10 extremely sharp Shura's claws. Following the formation of Shura's claws, the Shura's horn on Wang Kai's head also broke out of his body. At the same time, Wang Kai's bone spurs also appeared on Wang Kai's body, transforming Wang Kai's body into the strongest fighting weapon. Not only that, the black Shura's flames burned on the surface of Wang Kai's body, raising his aura even more. In the blink of an eye, Wang Kai's aura had completely crushed Luo Chun. However, facing Wang Kai, Luo Chun didn't reveal any fear in his eyes. Instead, he became even more excited. This was the opponent he longed for. Looking at Wang Kai, the smiles on the faces of the elders of the martial spirit hall became even wider. No matter how strong Luo Chun was, he was still an outsider. Although they admired Luo Chun as elders, they were naturally even more proud when they saw their future holy son's aura crushing Luo Chun. As expected of the holy son of our martial spirit hall, what a powerful aura. I was definitely inferior to him when I first advanced to Soul Emperor. Yes, as expected of the personal disciple of the peerless Da, the chief consecrator. Luo Chun, please. Amidst the praises and discussions of the elders of the martial spirit hall, Wang Kai smiled and officially challenged Luo Chun.